Dr. Herbert Hopkins and the missing coin. Many people regard the men in black as nothing more than government agents dressed in perfect black suits that attempt to cover up or use scare tactics to prevent the public at large from understanding the true occurrence of extraterrestrial activity. However, the men in black could also be something else entirely, something not human. This appears to be the case when reviewing the reports made by a Dr. Herbert Hopkins and his strange encounter with an individual who suddenly showed up at his house while he was conducting a private investigation. Dr. Herbert Hopkins was working as a consultant on a case involving a sighting of an unidentified flying object, as well as various other extraterrestrial claims that had occurred in the state of Maine. One night, as Dr. Hopkins was poring over further details of the case he had recovered, he received an eerie phone call from someone who claimed to be an activist in the alien community, who then further stated that not only did he wish to visit Hopkins, but he had additional evidence regarding the case. Dr. Hopkins was thrilled to hear this, as any additional witness testimony and proof brought forward would certainly help him better understand the situation that had occurred. So, he gave them the details of his address and directions on how to reach him. Oddly enough, it only took a few minutes before he heard the ring of his doorbell. The man that showed up at his house was described by Mr. Hopkins as wearing a perfectly pressed black suit and a black tie. But this was far from the most noticeable thing about the man. According to Dr. Hopkins, the man in black had incredibly unusual facial features. The man had no hair of any kind, including a bald head, completely shaved eyebrows, and no eyelashes. He was also so unbelievably pale to the point that he looked unhealthy and completely unnatural. Not wanting to be rude, Dr. Hopkins invited this strange man into the home to discuss the details of the case. When the strange man entered, Dr. Hopkins's dog began barking at the man erratically and demonstrated incredible uneasiness around him. The only thing after the man's mouth were direct questions being asked about the details of the case, involving information that no one other than the current investigators were made aware of. After Dr. Hopkins answered his questions and told the man everything he had learned about the case, the conversation became a whole lot weirder. The man in black told Dr. Herbert Hopkins that there were 2 coins in his pocket, and for the doctor to make sure he was correct. When the doctor checked his pockets, he found 2 coins and immediately became disturbed by this. The man in black then instructed the doctor to remove one of the coins from his pockets and to hold it in his hand. As the coin sat in the palm of the doctor's hand, he began to see what he described as the coin taking on a silvery appearance and then appearing as if it was going out of focus. After a few more seconds, the coin disappeared completely and was nowhere to be seen. The man in black then explained to Hopkins that the coin will never be seen on this plane again, implying that perhaps it's in a different plane of existence altogether. The man in black then asked the doctor if he was aware of the case of Barney Hill. For those that are not aware of Barney Hill, he was a famous collaborator in the alien community with interesting experiences and witness accounts. He and his wife worked tirelessly to develop a legitimate study of alien life before his untimely death that was already shrouded in conspiracy. The man in black then told Dr. Hopkins that the reason Barney had passed away was due to them using the same tactic as they did with a coin on Barney's heart. The man in black clarified by saying, "Just like you no longer have a coin, Barney didn't have a heart." The man in black then told Dr. Hopkins to destroy any material he had related to the UFO case and to no longer participate any further in the alien community. Extremely disturbed by this, Dr. Hopkins immediately burned all the files he had relative to the case. The invasion of Washington, D.C., 1952. In 1952, a series of sightings over Washington, D.C. led to what later became known as the invasion of Washington, D.C. From July 19th to July 27th, there was a wave of reported unidentified flying objects, UFOs, above the nation's capital. Witnesses ranged from the general public to high-ranking military officials. An air traffic controller, Edward Nugent, detected 7 objects on radar moving in ways impossible for conventional aircraft. Witnesses reported glowing, metallic objects moving at high speeds. The situation led to President Harry Truman's involvement, resulting in investigations by the Air Force and the Central Intelligence Agency. The existence of extraterrestrial life seemed likely, given credible witness reports, radar data, and the involvement of intelligence agencies. How DNA works. Despite significant scientific progress, The inner workings of DNA remain mysterious. Every cell in the human body contains the same DNA code, yet cells perform various functions. Scientists don't fully understand how DNA orchestrates these functions. Even after mapping the entire human genome, the secrets of DNA are elusive. Understanding this mechanism could lead to remarkable advances in the field of medicine, potentially unlocking the secrets of cell replication, aging, and various diseases, including cancer. The discovery of materials 10 million times stronger than steel, neutron stars, formed after massive supernovae, yield incredibly dense materials. Recent simulations suggest materials derived from neutronium could be 10 million times stronger than steel. While there may be no immediate practical applications due to the immense weight, this discovery inspires innovations in materials science. The intricate layering and stringing of neutronium might pave the way for novel materials with incredible strength. Modeling electrons in unprecedented detail, physicists have undertaken groundbreaking experiments to reveal the true nature of electrons. By using powerful lasers to observe electrons' behaviors, scientists address the long-debated question of whether electrons are truly round or possess a different shape. This research confirmed the spherical nature of electrons. However, the study raised new questions about unexplained phenomena, signaling uncharted territories in particle physics. The origin of the prehistoric stone spheres of Costa Rica. The stone balls were first referenced back in 1971 by famed ancient alien author Eric von Daniken in his cult classic novel known as Chariots of the Gods. Though the discovery of these stone spheres goes as far back as the 1940s, located and scattered throughout the jungles of Costa Rica. These spheres were originally found in the delta of the Tarahui River, but followed as far away north as the Estrella Valley and as far south as the mouth of the Coto Colorado River. This appears to be no easy feat, however, as the objects were massive, most of them being as large as roughly 2 meters in diameter and weighing more than 16 tons. In ancient Costa Rican myth, as well as evidence found by archaeologists, it was originally believed that these spheres served a purpose by matching constellations in the sky, and that, according to these myths, represented the constellation of which the gods had arrived from. The ancient astronaut community believes that the spheres could have served as a primitive star map depicting a very specific constellation, as told by the ancient gods in an attempt to show us their home planet. Unfortunately, the Costa Rican stone spheres, when discovered, were either moved from their original location by archaeologists and researchers or blown up by treasure seekers. Believing the stone spheres to contain ancient artifacts, priceless antiques, or gold treasures that could be sold on the black market. Due to this, the true nature and archaeological context of the scattered spheres is completely lost for the foreseeable future. And, though there may be a handful of stones still in their original location, hundreds of others have been completely destroyed, removed, or washed away by flooding. In the original together, even though the surviving stones could still prove to be useful regarding archaeological context and discovery. For some strange reason, the discovery has gone widely unnoticed and completely ignored since its original finding back in the 1940s. The flying Saqqara bird of ancient Egypt. It was very common in the old days of Egypt for children to possess intricately carved wooden toys, not much different from toys found today. Interestingly enough, the discovery of the Saqqara artifact puts many ideas into question on whether or not the object was a toy or evidence of ancient aircraft. During 200 BCE, in an 1898 excavation at the Pardi Aman tomb located in the town of Saqqara, Egypt, was discovered strange bird-shaped artifacts made out of sycamore wood and incredibly preserved. These artifacts depict a bird first at the front, however, the rest of the body seemed similar in design to a modern-day charter plane rather than a bird. Located atop the bird appears to be one single large wing, commonly seen in modern taildragger planes, whereas the back of the bird shows what appears to be a similar design to a rudder that flattens out at the back in a vertical position. Further evidence of the ancient Egyptian gods' wild and advanced technologies is the fact that the bird figure used for the Saqqara bird is that of a falcon, an image commonly used to depict many of the Egyptian gods and their power. Further evidence was established when aerodynamics expert Simon Sanderson tested an exact replica model of the carved bird in a modern wind tunnel. Even without a tailplane, rudder, or flaps, the model generated 4 times the glider's weight and lift, proving indefinitely that even without the use of modern-day equipment, scaled up, the carved image could glide on its own. When Simon Sanderson added a stabilizing tailplane to the carved wooden figure and tested it in a flight simulator, it was able to fly quite well and control with ease, rivaling in comparison to many aircraft built today. In his paper, Simon wrote, "Modern technology has proved beyond all doubt that it could have flown." Despite the substantial evidence and research, many experts claim Simon Sanderson is forging the results or even go as far as claiming that perhaps the wooden bird is nothing more than an elaborate hoax placed there during its discovery. Devil's Tramping Ground. Out in North Carolina, locals of the area have found an unexplainable region of the nearby forest that seems to defy all logic and reasoning. The area is referred to as the Devil's Tramping Ground, as it appears to be completely devoid of any growth of any kind, similar to that scene of a large animal or beast stomping around in a circle without rest. The strange and mysterious 40-foot ring of compacted, blackened soil has been the talk of local legends since the discovery of the region found right beside Silver City, located in North Carolina, 10 miles west of the location. The local residents claim that almost every night, if someone visits this odd and mysterious location, you will be able to see a dark spirit stomping on the ground in anger, leading to the region's blackened, compacted state. The location is so strange that even the North Carolina State Department of Agriculture has spent years taking samples of the soil in this area but is still yet to come up with an explanation for why the 40-foot radius is completely devoid of life of any kind. Experts originally believed that perhaps there was a more scientific approach to the whole situation, believing that maybe a lack of nutrients in the soil or a spawning ground for insects could be the reason for the blackened, compacted state. Studies came back inconclusive to any of those results, and by the standards of the tests held by the North Carolina State Department of Agriculture, the soil should be some of the most fertile soil in the region. Today, experts are still uncertain as to what can be causing this blackened, compacted soil, and many paranormal investigators have stayed out most nights to watch the region but failed to spot anything supernatural or paranormal causing. The Devil's Tramping Ground. The 50-foot Congo snake. Back in 1959, when the Belgian Air Force occupied the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a colonel by the name of Remy Van Lood made a startling discovery. As he was flying over the rainforests of the Congo, there were 3 people on the flight: himself, a pilot, and a photographer. As they were attempting to get surveillance information of the forest below them on their journey to another military base, suddenly the colonel noticed what appeared to be a large snake, over 50 feet in length, lifting its body more than 10 feet high. The colonel reportedly told the pilot to turn around so they could get better photographs of the creature and hovered for a while in the helicopter before they realized they were low enough to be within striking distance of the snake. It's believed the team encountered a large titanosaur in the region, and if the estimates by the colonel were correct, the creature was the largest snake to have ever existed. Interestingly enough, since the sighting, there have been many other claims from tourists in the region of encountering massive anaconda-like creatures that can lift their bodies more than 10 feet in the air and are somewhere between 30 to 40 feet in length. Given snakes at such sizes existed in the prehistoric past, this could very well be a surviving descendant of the titanosaur and exists in the oxygen-rich areas of the Congo Basin. No other explanations exist for these continued sightings to this day. The Big Bay Point Lighthouse. Located on the north shore of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, the Big Bay Point Lighthouse has similar origins when it comes to the cause of its hauntings. Back in 1896, when the lighthouse was first constructed and opened to begin its duty of warning people of the dangers of its foggy shores, built on top of a 60-foot rocky mountainside that falls into the lake beneath it, a man by the name of William Pryor became the station's inaugural keeper. Whatever happened to William Pryor became a mystery for residents over 100 years ago, after he supposedly disappeared and was believed by many to have fallen into the choppy waters after an especially foggy night and thunderous storm. Interestingly, the location is now operating as a romantic bed and breakfast with fireplaces and spa services to match. But the current innkeeper is not at all happy about the rumors spreading. Linda Gamble has done a variety of exorcism techniques to help guests feel more at home after years of many reporting slamming cabinets, doors, apparitions appearing, and a few of the residents being attacked by a strange ghostly figure. It appears, however, that these attempts have been fruitless, as many still report the haunting of the lighthouse to this day. The swine flu outbreak of Mexico. In the month of April back in 2009, the locals of La Junta in the state of Chihuahua, located in the country of Mexico, began reporting strange sightings of an unexplainable creature that fits the descriptions of the Mothman entity. The locals reported a creature that was described as being incredibly tall and standing at more than 7 feet high, which fits with previous claims seen in the town of Point Pleasant back in 1967. They also claimed that the creature had 2 incredibly large and expansive wings with red bloodshot eyes, though they were not glowing. Other information was given as well, though many witnesses disagreed with the reports of others, such as those who claimed the creature was more man-like and others arguing that the creature was covered from head to toe in a thick wool. One young student in the region even filed a police report, in which he detailed an experience he had had in which he was walking home and encountered the Mothman creature in the streets. According to the student, the Mothman creature followed him overhead and chased him for more than 15 minutes as he ran home, trying to get away from the creature. Though he was left unharmed as the creature quickly flew away before anyone else could help the student. Interestingly enough, similar to the other accounts of a strange sighting and an impending disaster, it appears that the region was at the center of an eventual swine flu outbreak seen back in 2009. Although the main cause of the swine flu was never truly known, many experts believe that the pandemic very well could have originated in the region. At the time of the first reported cases of the swine flu infection by virologists, the swine flu itself could have been caused by a strain of the influenza virus mutating. That, although usually only infected pigs, somehow changed to be able to be transmitted to people from the infected livestock. This could very well mean that perhaps the appearance of the Mothman can be more accurately explained as an individual with knowledge of soon-to-occur future events that usually lead to the death of a large number of people and receive public notoriety. On an infamous scale, the buried desert cities of Juba, although Dubai is recognized as one of the greatest modern cities in the world, filled with expensive luxuries and modern designs. The country of the United Arab Emirates believes that within its borders may exist buried desert cities. An untold number of buried civilizations were lost in the deserts surrounding their cities. The prime target of these buried civilizations is the long-lost, and many consider it an evil city, Jaffa. Many archaeologists have acknowledged the viability of its existence, and it is seen as one of the most famous lost cities in Arabia. During the 10th century all the way up until the 14th century, the city of Jaffa underwent an incredible golden age which led to the development of the city into becoming a trade hub of the entire southern Gulf Arabic trade during the Middle Ages. This meant that not only was the city more than 1,000 years old at the time of its disappearance, but it also played a significant role in the Arabic trading world. It held a massive reservoir of information, historical significance, and unrecovered artifacts that could paint the most complete picture of the Muslim Golden Age to date. Evidence of the city of Jaffa reveals that it was able to trade with areas as far away as India and the Far East on a routine basis and had developed extensive trading routes all throughout the Persian Gulf. Not much is known today as to where the city might reside or what could have caused the disappearance of the city on such a massive scale. But back in the early 1960s, many archaeologists and researchers speculated that the coast of the United Arab Emirates could be the last piece of the puzzle in the search for the long-lost city buried beneath the vast deserts in the region. Unfortunately for researchers, efforts to excavate certain sites are blocked under the bureaucracy of the UAE government, which has stalled further efforts to uncover these secrets. Until more can be done, we will have to wait and see what the desert sands naturally reveal. The Kozo artifact. Last but definitely not least is the discovery of the Kozo artifact, which has left many claiming proof that humans visited the distant past with technology very similar to that of the modern day. The Kozo artifact is that of an out-of-place artifact discovered near the town of Valencia in the state of California back in 1961 when a group of people were prospecting the area for geodes. As they collected a number of geodes, they broke one to find what appeared to be a spark plug completely sealed up inside a 500,000-year-old geode and still in pristine condition due to its sealing. Given the fact that such a specific device as a spark plug required for modern-day vehicles would most likely not exist among non-human civilizations and require the coincidental copy of modern-day designs, Many use this find as evidence that humans journeyed back as far as 500,000 years into the past and left behind a spark plug that would later find itself encased inside a geode and discovered in the modern day once more. Though there have been a number of possible explanations for the discovery of such an artifact, none seem to address how or why a spark plug could have been completely encased in a 500,000-year-old geode and why it would have remained in such a pristine condition. Number 9. Stonehenge and ley lines. An archaeological site of significant importance that has always been a major fascination among the locals of the area and researchers from around the world. Stonehenge has proven to be quite a mystery to anyone who even attempts to try to understand its construction and the techniques behind it. Not only are the large stone blocks that were used in the construction of the monuments so massive that even modern means of construction would fail in regards to establishing Stonehenge, but the source of the blocks appears to have been carved from hundreds of miles away, which leads many researchers to question the ability of transporting such large stones to the area. To add to this bizarre strangeness in the formation of Stonehenge, it has been discovered that the structure appears to have been built with astonishing precision in its placement and carved creation. The structure appears to be able to be used as a complex calendar and can keep track of time to an incredibly mysterious, accurate degree. This does insinuate, however, that not only did the ancients have the technology to cut the stones with laser precision, transport the massive blocks, lift them with tremendous force, and place them with perfect alignment, but that our ancestors also had the ability to make megalithic constructions in a very short span of time. This continues to baffle researchers to this day who work to uncover more secrets regarding Stonehenge, such as its weird electromagnetic properties and special materials used in its creation. Others have even argued that the formation of the Great Stonehenge could be direct proof of ancient technologies and extraterrestrial intervention. When researchers attempted to better understand the strange electromagnetic phenomenon experienced at Stonehenge, they began to put forward a theory when plotting on a map a number of other megalithic monuments that point to the idea of one long and massive road that seemed to have connected the monuments in a straight line. This would later lead to the theory that the spiritual placement of Stonehenge was that of a mystical property and that this invisible road could have been a reference to a mystical line of energy. This is said to have run around the world known as a ley line. Though no one is quite sure what ley lines are responsible for, it's believed that there is a connection with that of Earth's electromagnetic field and a property of mystical energy surrounding the entire monument. Number 8. The Ubaid Lizardmen. Aliens, human-lizard hybrids, or an advanced reptilian civilization. This might sound bizarre, but all these are the possibilities associated with one of the most unique archaeological discoveries of all time. Discovered in the famous Al-Ubaid archaeological site in Iraq, the humanoid figures with lizard-like features have baffled archaeologists for more than a century now. English historian and Egyptologist Henry Reginald Hall first excavated the site in 1919. He and his team found a number of artifacts dating back 7,000 years. Among these artifacts were strange statues of creatures that seemed like humans but had heads like lizards. It's a consensus among scholars that Mesopotamia, which is the region where modern-day Iraq and Iran are located, is the birthplace of human civilization, and this is exactly the place where the Ubaid Lizardmen, along with hundreds of thousands of other strange artifacts, have been discovered. The inability of modern-day science to explain the Lizardmen and the lack of historic knowledge has given rise to many conspiracy theories about these Lizardmen. Some alien enthusiasts are convinced that the Ubaid Lizardmen actually depict a much more sophisticated race that visited the Earth from a distant star during the Ubaidian era. However, some have tried to make more sense of the artifacts and have claimed that these actually represent the common practice of skull modification during the Ubaid era. While mainstream science today does not support the idea of a reptilian race, the inability of science to explain the 7,000-year-old statues gives rise to many questions. Were there any creatures that resembled these statues? Was mankind in contact with some advanced alien civilization? Or were these statues actually representations of demons made to please dark spirits? Whatever these were, all we can do now is speculate as the truth lies somewhere between science and fiction. Number 7. Supernova mystery found at the bottom of the sea. Scientists have spent decades researching across the vastness of space to learn more about the supernova phenomenon. They could not have imagined that the answers they were looking for would actually be residing at the bottom of the seas. Through the careful analysis of the ocean floor, it was discovered that the particles that actually originated from a supernova explosion somewhere deep in space were present all over the ocean floor. Over millions of years, Earth has witnessed many catastrophic events, and it's very much possible that a supernova explosion at a nearby star sent a huge amount of debris toward Earth that not only caused a lot of destruction but also became a part of the Earth's geography. This debris is believed to be what is buried at the bottom of the ocean. Though the scientists are still unsure about the exact origins of the stardust that the ocean holds, they are quite confident that many secrets of the universe can be unlocked by doing research on these particles. Some research has shown that the galactic dust that resides at the bottom of the sea is more than 25 million years old. Some historians and researchers have linked the space dust to an extinction event that took place on Earth and wiped off most of the life present on the planet. This discovery of stardust at the bottom of the ocean is quite recent, and it has excited many scientists who are now planning to carry out detailed studies. This has also strengthened the belief that the ocean floor contains many treasures, including some of the rarest and most expensive elements. As technology advances and the cost of exploring the ocean floor become affordable, we can expect more expeditions going into the depths of the ocean around the world and retrieving the stardust and the treasures residing there. Number 6. Fallen from space. Where is all the life? It might sound like an odd question to ask given the fact that our little blue planet seems to be teeming with an absurd amount of life and variations of it. But that does not seem to be the case anywhere else in the universe. In fact, it is so much not the case that it is mathematically implausible. For comparison, the Milky Way galaxy is filled up with roughly 400 billion stars and billions of planets. Understanding the new advancements made by the Kepler Space Telescope, we know that roughly 1/5 of those sun-like stars have at least an Earth-sized planet in a habitable zone, which can vary greatly as the recent discoveries of the TRAPPIST system that held 7 Earth-like planets in habitable zones seem pretty common. If even so little as 0.1% of those planets had life on them or some variation of life, then there would be roughly 1 million planets with life in just the Milky Way galaxy. But there isn't. Even taking time into consideration only seems to make the math more implausible. The chances for life are pretty great. The Milky Way itself is about 13 billion years old. The first habitable planets in the Milky Way would have come into existence about 2 billion years after the universe was formed. This leaves about an 11 billion year period since our formation for other advanced life to have been formed, and since Earth is only 4 billion years old. There has most likely been trillions of likely chances and scenarios in the Milky Way alone for life on other planets to pop into existence. All we would require to notice other life would be for just one species of these trillions of potential incidences to advance into a spacefaring civilization. Given that research states that our population growth and technological rate would allow human beings to colonize the entire Milky Way galaxy in about 2 million years, if we assume all outcomes the same, we would be able to see an alien civilization by now considering the time, chances, and probability of other life to have formed. The fact that we do not is horrifying. This has led many researchers to believe that maybe the forming of complex life isn't the issue, and that perhaps there is an extinction-level event to filter around the formation of complex life right around the corner, including ourselves. Number 5. The extinction of the megalodon. One of the largest predators to have ever existed was the megalodon. The giant shark could easily grow up to 60 feet in length and had a bite more powerful than that of a Tyrannosaurus rex. Strangely enough, although sharing a timeline that would have placed this creature on Earth around the same time as our prehistoric ancestors, it suddenly and quite rapidly went extinct. Although the question of what caused the extinction of this giant shark still remains a mystery, many would remark that the size of the megalodon made it an incredible predator that helped it dominate the oceans during its reign. The truth is that the creature's large stature actually proved to be more of a hindrance. In order to support its massive body weight and muscle growth, the body of the megalodon had a tremendous metabolism. This meant the creature needed to consume massive amounts of food in order to not starve. This calorie requirement would have forced the megalodon to eat more than 2,500 pounds of meat a day just to survive. Given the fact that the diet of the massive shark was made up mostly of turtles and seals, the megalodon would have been forced to be in an instant state of predation just to meet its daily calorie requirements, even going so far as possibly eating its own young in times of stress. Given the fact that the megalodon often traveled over vast distances, this led to it winding up in new areas that did not contain an adequate food source and ultimately left the entire species incredibly vulnerable. Although most researchers agree this giant shark went extinct many years ago, there have been whispers of alleged giant sharks being witnessed by those who spend large amounts of time on the water. One such creature has become known as the black demon shark. Over the last 20 years, it's been spotted off the shores of Mexico's Baja California peninsula. These reports and sightings have been made by a number of fishermen across the Mexican coast who claim to have seen a massive black shark roughly 60 feet in length and resembling the build of a great white shark, but with dark coloration across its body and a massively sized tail. Given the fact that many of these reports fit many of the modern-day recreations using megalodon skeletons, it's led many to believe that it could be a possible hunting ground for the creature. Additionally, many of the fishermen that have reported the sightings have often been veterans in the field, never having once claimed such sightings in the past and having more than enough experience with different species of whales throughout the region. Number 4. The mysterious Nampa figurine. The Nampa figurine was found in 1889 when workers drilled a water well near Nampa, located in southwest Idaho. This artifact seems to be skillfully formed in clay, and ever since its discovery, it's been baffling scientists. According to the story, the workers reached a layer of clay over 90 meters down in the well. After reaching this point, their steam pump spat out this piece of brownish clay that looked like a small figurine. The object itself is described as being in great condition, bearing in mind how far down it was discovered. Those who have studied the figurine have said it looks like a female figure and does not seem to have been manufactured recently. According to Professor F.W. Putnam of Harvard University, quartz grains found under the doll's right arm were cemented by iron molecules, which is a clear indicator that this artifact might be very old. Many scientists took time and investigated this controversial figurine. They all conducted diverse tests, and they all agreed that the figurine is fully authentic and also of ancient origins. Number 3. The thylacine is still alive. Commonly referred to as the Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine has been a species in recent years that appears to be at the center of a number of monster sightings. These encounters have left many people to believe that perhaps the old species was never fully eradicated back during the hunting eradication of the 1930s. According to documents during the early 1900s, the thylacine was viewed as one of the most threatening animal species to the natural ecosystem, as they multiplied in rapid numbers after feeding on Australian livestock. The abundance of food due to agriculture led to the species growing in large numbers. This was an issue, and the locals began to fear that the thylacine would soon be devouring all of the livestock and moving deeper into towns and villages across the country. This led to the government taking action and promoting residents and farmers to hunt the creature, which led to its entire eradication in 1936 after the last known Tasmanian tiger died alone in an Australian zoo. Fortunately enough, there have been a number of individuals that have claimed to have spotted the creature while going on hikes. Not only did they have their natural striped colors, but were also cited as having the elongated jaws and razor-sharp teeth that many know the Tasmanian tiger to have possessed. As the years go by, more and more sightings of the creature have been made, leaving many to believe that perhaps there are small numbers of the species that survived and are slowly recovering from the losses. Number 2. Icelandic sea monsters. When traveling to Iceland via a cruise line, some tourists have been asked a bizarre question. This comes in the form of the locals asking the tourists if they have seen any of the nearby sea monsters. Although this may sound like a joke, Iceland is said to be full of mysterious sea monsters, some of which have even been captured on camera. Perhaps one of the most well-known sea monsters is that of the mysterious Lagerfeld worm. This creature is often referred to as the Iceland worm, and it's been cited by the locals for hundreds of years. The creature's size ranges depending on who you talk to, but some suggest it's anywhere from 30 to 90 feet in length. The worm is described as looking like a large snake, and every so often, it can be seen swimming on the surface. Inhabitants of the area have even come forward and spoke about the creatures of the lake, saying that people and pets have gone missing, and this is shortly after they strayed too close to the lake. Another legend states that if you see the worm, something bad will happen shortly after. After many years of people seeing the creature, a government investigation was carried out, and they declared that the lake creature does, in fact, exist. In 2012, video footage was taken of the creature, and it immediately went viral. According to Discovery News, the commission ruled that the 2012 video of the Icelandic lake monster is authentic. Some have compared it to the Loch Ness monster, saying that perhaps they are both the same creature. As of right now, though, skeptics say that the creature is nothing more than a hoax and still mentioned to this day to help bring tourism to the area. Number 1. The Dendera bulb. Another strange artifact of the Egyptian civilization is that of a symbolic carved hieroglyphic images located in the mysterious Hathor Temple at Dendera in Egypt. The strange images and symbols depict what appears to be an nth blueprint for modern-day electric lighting devices. The image includes a glass tube with a filament inside that appears to connect to a series of connectors commonly seen in modern-day bulbs, an invention supposedly not discovered until 1879. Interestingly enough, the symbolic image also depicts a long-running wire from the back end of the Dendera bulb, while humans raise their hands in worship to giants surrounding them. Given the vast and extensive amount of evidence we have gathered in the past of a possible race of giants, of whom were capable of using advanced technologies to have assisted with the creation of the pyramids at Giza and have been depicted in many other ancient Egyptian carvings, this could also be overwhelming evidence of the gifts of technologies and advancements provided. Interestingly enough, the temple depicting these devices also seems to have no conventional means of lighting. The hallways are so long and narrow that using mirrors to shed light into the rooms is not possible, and the use of torches were not existent due to the fact that no residue of ash has been found on the ceilings of the old temple, which is a common way to discern lighting practices in every other building in the area. This could be proof that not only were traditional methods of lighting not used, but that perhaps an alternative source of lighting was provided in the region. Many Egyptologists argue that the depiction is nothing more than a collection of symbols drawn in a way to appear nearly identical to modern-day light bulbs. However, given the fact that these symbols have never been seen outside of this one depiction, this theory appears to be quite a stretch for the overwhelming evidence provided in the ancient alien community. The red-headed giants of Lovelock Cave. Back in 1911, miners who had worked in Nevada's Lovelock Cave found a massive wealth of ancient relics. To their surprise, after a bit more searching, they found the mummified remains of a 198-centimeter-tall man with red hair. Alongside this red-headed mummy, they also found 38-centimeter sandals, which appeared to have been used by a rather large person, maybe even a giant. This entire cave has been turned into an archaeological dig site, and many strange things have been found. After longer research, people have connected this entire site with a Paiute legend about red-headed, freckled-faced cannibals, the Sitekos. The original red-headed mummy that had been found is now destroyed, which makes this story impossible to prove. Luckily, some people did not give up and still believe that the Sitekos were real. If this story is true, it would mean that the Sitekos were a group of violent European explorers who began carbon dating the stones in an effort to better understand the time frame of the formation of the stones and whether or not they had formed naturally. This theory was almost immediately proven to be false, as evidence of carbon dating showed that the stones had been placed in that location artificially. Given that the large stones on top of the sandbar were of an older material than the sand beneath it, this leads research scientists to believe that the rocks were carved from different areas and moved to that location by ancient people. The ability for the ancestors of the region to have constructed a massive 30-mile megalithic structure of stones weighing thousands of tons appears to lead many to believe that the ancients had advanced technologies that we could not fathom today. Even more interesting are all the ancient Hindu accounts of the bridge and the gods forming these magical pathways via flying machines they would ride on. The Oak Island Money Pit, dubbed by researchers, archaeologists, historians, and treasure hunters alike as the last great unsolved mystery of the modern era, is a conspiracy of claims and reports that span centuries and historical references. These led to the overall belief and finding that Oak Island in Nova Scotia may house a collection of the greatest treasures the world has ever seen. Though the existence of treasure in the region is still up for debate, there is a substantial amount of evidence relative to the proof of buried riches and hidden artifacts. Among these supposed artifacts are Shakespearean manuscripts, the jewels of Marie Antoinette, and religious artifacts ranging from gold hidden by the Catholic Church to reports of the fabled Ark of the Covenant hidden by the Templar Knights in the region. The historical value of these reports is so great that the majority of treasure hunters work alongside archaeologists, historians, and experts in the field to help uncover the true natures of hidden documents and conspiracies forgotten to time. The History Channel had even recently created a television show around the excavation processes and treasure hunting on the island, titled The Curse of Oak Island, that details proof of treasures hidden underwater, chambers, depressions in the ground, and even minor artifacts discovered in the area. Despite these findings, there are still many researchers who are skeptical about the claims, and it is quite commonly believed that potentially no treasures of substantial value are located on the island, and that reports outlining these buried treasures could have been forged to direct misinformation and prevent people from discovering their true locations. Why do we dream? Similar to the question previously asked, dreaming is all the more of a mystery to scientists, along with the mechanisms of sleeping. In fact, there is a whole field of study in the world of science called oneirology that is dedicated to attempting to understand the exact reasons for why dreams themselves even exist. Research into this field of study includes the exploration of the mechanisms of dreaming, the influences on dreaming, and disorders linked to dreaming. What is all the more interesting in this study is the work made toward understanding the electric stimuli of the dreaming world and advancements made in understanding dream cycles and the discovery in recent times of the rapid eye movement, which is a specific moment in dreaming that a dreaming patient's mind is similar to that of a waking mind. Further studies made by Professor Dan Young in the field of neuroscience, which often overlaps into oneirology, has found that it might even be possible, given the advancements she has made, to potentially view one's dreams and catch a better glimpse into the minds of the subconscious. Many scientists in oneirology often debate the reflections of the subconscious mind that dreaming inhabits and believe that it could be possible that the inner subconscious mind is allowed to communicate with the conscious mind during this time, allowing an individual to better understand hidden traumas and subconscious desires. Outside of understanding dreams, however, the mechanisms that cause such a phenomenon are still widely unknown, and it appears that any new satisfying answer is not coming anytime soon. The Emelantuka, similar to that of the Triceratops fossils discovered all across the world by paleontologists, is that of the myths surrounding the creature known in its native language as the Emelantuka, sightings of which were made by natives located in the Congo. It was often referred to as the elephant killer and seemed to be very similar in design to that of the Triceratops. The creature is reported as being described in the same likeness as that of the African bush elephant, standing at roughly 10 feet tall and weighing 6 tons. The beast is drawn with a large and heavy tail, brownish to gray in color, and with a body similar to that of a rhino, including a large horn at the front of its snout. Interestingly enough, the descriptions and supporting fossil evidence of the creature having at one time existed leave many experts believing that it could be a distant ancestral cousin to the rhino or a possible descendant of the Triceratops dinosaur. Unfortunately, the tribe native to the Congo region that reported on the creature claimed to have purposefully sought out each creature of the species to eradicate them from the area due to their growing fears of the creature, its aggressions, and history of attacks. The last reported sighting of the creature was seen in Kenya. Many experts believe that if the creature did at one time exist, it has long since been extinct for a few thousand years, given the lack of a fossil record. Interestingly, the tribe reports that the last of the creatures to be killed was back during 1930, with claims about a man that removed the horn from the body of the creature and holds it in possession. Further information about the creature has not been released, and the only reliable information to be found on it is that of the evidence and work gathered by Dr. Roy P. Mackle, who describes the creature in his 1987 publication of his book, A Living Dinosaur. The Georgia Raptor. Back on the 25th of July in 2008, a young 18-year-old man and his grandfather went on a trip down into the forest of Georgia, out in remote locations, in the hopes of bagging a fresh deer on a small hunting escapade. The trip had been planned more than a year in advance, and the two were wanting to look into old areas that do not usually have a lot of human activity in the hopes of finding a native species of deer that was not skittish about human intervention in the region. The grandson wrote a letter in which he described that as he was on the hunting trip with his grandfather at around 3:30 p.m., When the two were walking down what appeared to be a small animal trail, they heard a strange noise that they previously had never heard before. Suddenly, he describes that something started slowly walking out from behind the bushes and onto the pathway roughly 150 yards in front of them. The creature appeared at first to be similar in size and shape to that of a velociraptor. However, the two described that the creature had feathers down the nape of its neck and at the edges of its body. This has earned the creature the name of the Georgia Raptor, and ever since this first reported sighting, many others have come forward about encountering the creature, with some even believing that it could be a surviving species of a large bird-like creature that has directly descended from a family of the raptor known as a trudon. Others have reported hearing strange noises in the night and even finding strange specimens of feces that appear to have been created from that of a larger bird, similar to that of an ostrich. For those who are not aware, an ostrich is a very close descendant of the family related to the velociraptors and even has the majority of the same physical structures and group-like intelligences. This could very well be supporting evidence of a yet-to-be-uncovered descendant of the raptor living in the wooded lands of the state of Georgia. The burned jaw of Australia. There are more than enough variations in species all across the Australian outback for many experts to be unaware of their existence. Given the nature of the outback and its incredibly hostile environment, and surprisingly, the area does not see much human activity, if any. This, of course, goes without saying that the Australian outback is at the center of many myths and legends involving a wide variety of terrifying creatures roaming the landscape. Many of these focus around the encounters that native Aboriginal peoples have when traveling through the outback and passing down stories of strange creatures they fought or were attacked by. One is the story of the Burrinch, all of which is a creature that shares incredible similarities to that of a Tyrannosaurus rex. Although not as tall as its ancient ancestor, molds of large three-toed footprints have also been created from imprints found out in the Australian outback at more than 3 feet in width and 4 feet in length. According to the Aboriginal myths, there roams a massive lizard with the tail of an alligator that walks on 2 hind legs, possesses a massive and powerful jaw, and has 2 short arms at its chest. Interestingly enough, there has been a large number of reports of a T-Rex-like creature out in the Australian outback, with TV networks going out to film episodes centering around the discovery of the creature and its existence. Although it's unlikely that the T-Rex survived in such a climate, given the large number of reptiles of all sizes in the Australian outback, it could be a very real possibility that the descendants of the creature exist today. Roaming in some of the largest and emptiest landscapes in history. Never found Cleopatra's tomb. There are many stories of Cleopatra, her beauty, and her lover Mark Antony. Cleopatra is probably one of the most famous people from our history, and most of us heard of her even as kids. She was a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the last known pharaoh of Egypt. The ancient writers claim that Cleopatra VII was buried together with Mark Antony back in 30 BC. Cleopatra and Antony were lovers who just wanted to be together forever. It is believed that Cleopatra actually committed suicide 2 weeks after Octavian defeated Antony and invaded Egypt. The writer known as Plutarch claimed that the tomb could be found near the Temple of Isis, a beautiful Egyptian goddess. Plutarch also said the tomb would contain gold treasures, silver pearls, ivory, emeralds, and ebony. Back in 2010, Zahi Hawass, former Minister of Antiquities of Egypt, conducted various excavations at the site found near Alexandria, currently known as Top Osiris Magna. The site contained 27 tombs and 10 mummies, all dating back to the era of Cleopatra VII, her ruling of Egypt. Sadly, it was no luck for Hawass. He did not find the tomb he was looking for, and he probably never will. Some theories suggest that Octavian would never let Cleopatra and Antony get buried in such a great manner, while others believed he was not as harmless, considering he let Cleopatra make a funeral for her Antony after his tragic defeat. Some archaeologists claim her even if we would find Cleopatra's tomb now, it would probably be very heavily plundered and completely unidentifiable. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, reality, or a myth? The ancient writers described them as a series of beautiful gardens that have been constructed at the ancient Babylon city. No one really knows the exact time when these gardens could have been built, but many seem to be impressed by the gardens, and they believe they are a wonder of the world. One of the texts claims that the gardens were built by a Babylonian emperor, Nebuchadnezzar for his lovely wife, Amias, back in 250 BC. Philo of Byzantium wrote about the Hanging Gardens, saying the plants were cultivated at a height that was above ground level. Throughout the years, many archaeologists have tried to find the Hanging Gardens. They even excavated Babylon, and they were still not able to find any of the remains of this beautiful garden. Just when we all thought the Hanging Gardens were just a myth, an interesting story appeared by a researcher who has spent over 20 years looking for the location of the gardens. 2013-inch. Stephanie Daly from the University of Oxford proposed that the gardens were located at the Assyrian city Nan. Dr. Daly managed to combine the ancient maps with today's versions of the maps to finally locate this famous place. Dr. Daly also says that Minerva is actually New Babylon, and that we have been looking at the wrong place the entire time. Sadly, past 2 decades, these zones have been suffering a lot of damage from looting and war, so it is very unlikely we are ever going to find these beautiful gardens. If the Hanging Gardens really did exist, we hope to find them someday. From the descriptions, these were we have never seen before. The Golden Owl hidden in France, created by French author and communications expert Regis Hauser under the pen name of Max Valentine, On the Trail of the Golden Owl, is a 22-page book filled with complex codes, riddles, and puzzles that outline the details of how to uncover a hidden artifact. Created by the book's illustrator and win the prize supplied by the author, which is a statuette of an owl created from solid gold and silver and affixed with several diamonds across the top. The author has passed away in recent time, yet the treasure detailed in this book still has yet to be found by enthusiasts and devout treasure hunters from across the world. Many treasure hunters pursue the quest today, not for the riches but for the bragging rights of being able to uncover the secrets of the complex codes and riddles. The treasure of the Golden Owl is valued at 150,000 euros but can easily be auctioned off at a much higher price. The creator of the riddles and codes also claimed to have put a tremendous amount of time into false trails and misinformation in the riddle to throw off treasure hunters and prevent the treasure from being found too quickly. Valentine later clarified that he had visited the site several times to ensure the presence of the treasure still in its rightful place and found it to be undisturbed. Evidence of people being roughly within 400 feet of the treasure had been reported by Max Valentine in an interview later held. Of course, as time grew and no participants could find the treasure, Valentine set up the MaxVal server to help answer any questions treasure hunters might have and provide additional clues. After answering over 100,000 questions pertaining to the search over the span of several years, Valentine closed the server, and remnants of the information exist to this day. No one has found the treasure, but given the advancements and information shared today, a winner should be able to finish the treasure hunt sometime soon. The Close Encounters of Cossack. While there are a tremendous number of reported cases of eyewitness accounts of unidentified flying objects, it is very rare for eyewitnesses to report a direct sighting of an alien presence or terrestrial life form seen in clear detail during the event. This does not appear to be the case when analyzing the close encounters of the commune of Cossack located in France. On the 19th of August, back in 1967, 2 children, a 13-year-old boy and his 9-year-old sister, ran to the police and alerted them of a strange sighting. They claimed that as they were watching the cows in a nearby field, they noticed 4 small people covered in a weird dark material standing at roughly 47 inches tall. At first, they were not afraid of these strange people and originally thought they were other children around their age. But they began to panic when these beings suddenly began to rise in the air and float up toward a metal disc-like object floating above them, which was no more than roughly 15 feet in diameter. At first, the officers didn't know what to make of the kids' story, but noticed that the children appeared to be truly fearful as they continued to describe the scene in great detail. Quickly, the officers followed the children to the sighting and noticed a strange sulfur smell in the air near where the object was seen hovering, and a large patch of dried grass had suddenly appeared in the area. After the police filed the report of the incident, the French government stepped in and conducted their own private investigations of the event. They have yet to release any gathered information or investigation details. As time went on, the story died down, and the government felt compelled to keep all gathered details of the investigation a secret. refusing to acknowledge the case's existence up until March 2007, when the French government released hundreds of declassified UFO investigations on their government website over 40 years after the event. Number 2. Hundreds of millions of planets and the Andromeda Galaxy. The Andromeda Galaxy, alternatively known as Messier 31, M31, or NGC 224, was originally known as the Nebula Galaxy. The Andromeda Galaxy is the closest major spiral galaxy to our Milky Way, with a diameter of 220,000 light-years. Although we have several dozen galaxies closer, the Andromeda Galaxy can truly be seen on a clear night from a place with a dark sky. The distance of the galaxy to Earth is currently at 2,500,000.0 light-years. The current name given to the galaxy was derived from the Andromeda constellation, which appears in the Earth's sky. The Andromeda Galaxy has an estimated number of stars at about 1 trillion, which is about twice the number of stars in our Milky Way galaxy. About 10 billion years ago, the Andromeda Galaxy was formed from the collision and merger of protogalaxies. Initially, astronomers thought the Andromeda Galaxy was a solar system in the process of formation. However, in the 20th century, the Andromeda Galaxy was resolved into individual stars. Even though the Andromeda Galaxy has more stars than our Milky Way galaxy, its mass is not as much because the Milky Way is assumed to contain more dark matter. The Andromeda Galaxy has a concentrated bulge of matter in the middle, surrounded by a disk of gas, dust, and stars with an immense halo. The Andromeda has dwarf galaxies, just like the Milky Way, with about 14 known galaxies. The only 2 galaxies that are best known and readily observed are M32 and M110. In the next 4 billion years, astronomers estimate that the Andromeda Galaxy will collide with the Milky Way, and this merger will end after 6 billion years from now. The Andromeda Galaxy is approaching the Milky Way at about 68 miles per second. This collision will permanently change the structure of these 2 galaxies. However, before that time comes, the Sun will have swollen to a red giant, consuming terrestrial planets like Earth. We certainly have more to be concerned about before the collision between the 2 galaxies. Number 3. The Mokombembe. One of the most popular myths of a terrifyingly large creature roaming the lands of the Congo is that of the Mokombembe, known in its native language as the one who stops the flow of rivers. The creature's designs are similar to that of a sauropod dinosaur, a tall monstrosity with a long neck and a larger flowing tail to match. The size of its body is similar to that of a hippopotamus, up to an elephant, and it has a neck reportedly longer than 8 meters in length. Reports out of the Congo River Basin claim that the creature stands at more than 75 feet in length and hides in a thick forest located throughout the northernmost point of the Congo. Given the fact that the water could act like a natural form of buoyancy for the animal to grow to such sizes while also providing a rich source of prey and drinking water, it appears that the jungles of the Congo and the river basin would be a natural location for such a large creature. Legions of sightings of the creature go back thousands of years, according to the native tribes in the region, and reports of the creature range all the way up to the modern day, with even a group of French priests that traveled throughout the region confirming the sighting of this modern-day dinosaur. Though no evidence has been gathered of the creature in the modern day, many people believe that there will be more than enough evidence to surface in time. Number 4. Slayer Slab. Following mysteries surrounding the legends of the Knuckers and other dragon-like stories across England, the rumors surrounding the Slayer's Slab continue to be one of the centers of folklore stories about a knight slaying the last Knucker found in England. According to the story, the King of Sussex believed that the Knucker living nearby their collection of villages was becoming far too powerful for any one man to defeat. This led him to approach a wide variety of knights in the hope that a small army could be formed, but no man was willing to fight for the king to slay such a beast. It was not until the King of Sussex offered his daughter's hand in marriage that a single knight came to the king in the hopes of defeating the dragon and wedding the princess. Of the 6 knights, it was this one who was willing to take on the challenge. The knights would go on to slay the dragon when they found it residing in a small pond referred to as its Knucker Hole located near Leominster. This knight earned the title of the Slayer after accomplishing such a feat. After the beast was defeated, the knight returned to marry the daughter and later settled down in Leominster for the rest of his natural life. The Slayer would later pass away in the town, leading to the rumors of the Slayer's Slab, an unmarked gravestone located at a church in Leominster that has no name or marking on the tombstone except for a cross overlaying a herringbone pattern, which led many people to believe it's the grave of the slayer that defeated the last dragon of England. Number 5. The Taos Hump. The small town of Taos, located in the southern state of New Mexico, is no stranger to odd reports and strange sightings. In fact, the small town is known for being a very laid-back artsy community and has been the town of origin for many famous celebrities of all kinds. It is no wonder then that when the initial reports of residents calling in about a strange humming sound of unknown origin, many speculated that it could have been nothing more than perhaps a modern art installation or a mundane cause. It did not take long, however, for this strange hum to be treated more seriously when further reports began coming in one after the other. Nicknamed the Taos Hum, this strange noise was first reported back in the early 1990s, sparking Joe Mullins, a local professor of engineering at the University of New Mexico, to conduct research into the matter. He found that the Taos Hum could only be heard by a very select group of people, making up about 2% of the local population. After setting up sensitive equipment and conducting extensive testing of the area, he could find no unusual vibrations or sounds. Whether the noise itself was caused by external or internal factors was completely undetermined. Not only did this puzzle the professor, but it seemed to be an unexplainable phenomenon for other researchers who looked into the matter. To this day, reports of a strange humming at different times of the day have been heard, and no one finds themselves any closer to an answer after all these years. Psychologists have posited that the Taos Hum could be nothing more than a form of mild mass hysteria, where many people claim to hear it due to becoming aware of the phenomenon. Interestingly enough, many claim that this cannot possibly be the case, as even many tourists visiting the area, unaware of the legends of the Taos Hum, claim to hear a strange humming noise upon entering the town. Number 6. The Phaistos Disc. The Phaistos Disc, found on the island of Crete, is a fired clay disc located inside the Minoan Palace of Phaistos. It has left many professional and amateur archaeologists struggling to decode the strange symbols found on the disc. Interestingly enough, it appears that the disc follows a lot of the same principles of modern-day discs, such as creating the symbols in an outward spiraling motion and having a spiraling line starting from the middle of the disc and radiating outwards. The symbols are not recognized as being a language of any kind and have left many wondering if they are instead a number of visual symbols that have no specific meaning but provide information based on context. Such examples of symbols like these in the modern day are that of stop signs, pedestrian crossing signs, and emojis. These are symbols used in everyday life but have no real decipherable language. Located on the face of the disc are a number of strange symbols that depict the heads of people, hides of animals, water, filters, and a number of strange tools that don't seem to repeat in any way. The disc also has two distinct sides, known as Side A and Side B, depicting different symbols with no real connection to the opposite side. This enigmatic and believed to be impossible to decipher text has led to a number of online forums dedicated to solving this strange artifact, with several different lists describing each symbol and trying to better understand the use and purpose behind it. Many have argued that if the symbols had no specific language, they would not be ordered on the disc in any way and would instead be randomly carved images. Given that they are in an ordered position and seem to face in a specific direction, it is believed that they may represent a decipherable language. Number 7. Henry Hudson's Mermaid. In 1608, Henry Hudson and his crew were passing through the cold waters of the Bering Sea when something strange happened. Hudson wrote the entire account in his journal. According to him, while passing through the Bering Sea, he had a very strange encounter with mermaids. He wrote that a mermaid saw the ship and its crew and disappeared into the sea. It returned after a while with a number of other mermaids. He described the mermaids as women with bodies as large as men in his crew. The mermaids had very white skin and long dark hair. The lower parts of their bodies had tails like dolphins with spots on them. Hudson was fascinated to see such an extraordinary discovery of mermaids. There have been many accounts of mermaid sightings during the past few centuries, and there is very little credibility in most of the accounts. Marine life experts believe that most of these sightings actually happened in areas where animals had tails like those of mermaids. One of the most common animals that can be mistaken for a mermaid is a manatee. However, Henry Hudson's case is quite different. The place where he saw these mermaids doesn't have any manatees. The clear description of the entire event by an experienced sailor like Henry Hudson leaves no chance that he and his crew mistook some other animals as mermaids. While many historians and marine biologists believe that the story of Henry Hudson could be entirely made up, there are some who believe that the sailor and his men saw something entirely unique that day. The people who believe in Henry Hudson's story are of the opinion that our limited knowledge about the oceans and marine life that resides in it makes it impossible for us to dismiss such accounts. Every year, thousands of new creatures are discovered in the seas around the world, and it is entirely possible that, if not mermaids, something that looks very much like them might be present in the depths of the seas or on uninhabited distant islands. Someday, we might just be able to discover them. Number 8. Black dogs of the British Isles. For reasons not entirely understood, there appear to be a string of reported incidents following similar descriptions of a black, ghost-like dog that has been seen all around the British Isles. Reports of such a creature come from various locations, including Aylesbury, Lyme Regis, Newgate, Northrop, and more, with many independent sightings from all throughout the area. According to witnesses, the black dogs of the British Isles are otherworldly apparitions, which many believe to be hellhounds ready to attack anyone nearby. They are described as larger than a normal dog, with a shadow-like body and glowing red eyes. Many claim to have encountered the creature shortly after a terrible storm or in areas associated with death, such as old places of execution and ancient buildings. Not much is known about these strange sightings, but they appear to be growing in number in recent years, with many claiming to have been attacked by a paranormal creature matching the description or even protected and guided by the shadowy beast when they were lost or in danger. Number 9. Sheep squash. Similar to its Sasquatch counterpart, the sheep squash of West Virginia stands at over 9 feet tall and seems to be a strange hybrid of a large, woolly man with the face of a ram and large curling horns to match. The creature is believed to be native to the forests of West Virginia, with numerous eyewitness reports of the creature coming from various woodlands and mountainous areas. In 1995, an incident involving a group of campers in the forest at night in an area located around a dense forest featured the monster in its entirety. According to the campers, they first heard what was described as the huffing and snorting of a bear in the region, only for the large sheep squash creature to come running out of the bushes and attempt to attack them. Although they ran away completely unharmed, they claimed they could hear the monster's terrible screams chasing them through the forest. Witness reports of the creature today vary, with some describing it as running on 2 legs and others as crawling on all 4s, often with a long tail behind it. Regardless of these variations in witness accounts, they all compare the monster to that of a ram and give it the name the sheep squash. Today, the creature is known to inhabit mountainous regions all throughout North America, as well as making rare appearances in the denser South American jungles located in Brazil. There has been no explanation of the creature, and it appears that any further evidence surrounding the creature's existence is up for question. Number 10. Mysterious tunnel beneath Mexican pyramids. A few years ago, archaeologists discovered a mysterious tunnel and chamber hidden beneath a 2,000-year-old pyramid during a study of the structure by researchers from the National Institute of Anthropology. The tunnel's entrance was found only a couple of weeks ago. The director of the conservation project, Veronica, stated that the tunnel is toward the south of the Plaza de la Luna, but it's likely that there is another entrance toward the eastern side. Archaeologists and researchers have suggested that the new chamber could contain human remains as well as other artifacts, some of which might resemble those discovered in other parts of the pyramids. The chamber is around 26 feet under the pyramid and is thought to have a diameter of 49 feet. It's a mystery who founded this ancient city and why the civilization collapsed. The Aztecs were among the first to discover these ancient ruins and decided to name it Teotihuacan, which means the place where men become gods. Since its discovery, it's been the site of many excavations. The Pyramid of the Moon was found to have been built on elevated ground, designed to reflect the hill in the background. Close by are 12 smaller pyramids, and research has estimated that the pyramid was built between 1 and 350 AD. Tombs have been discovered inside the pyramid, containing human remains and jewelry similar to those found in other parts of the pyramids. Some believe that the newly discovered chamber will most likely contain similar items. This ongoing discovery helps us better understand what life was like during this period. The heat ray used by Archimedes. On the hit TV show known as Mythbusters, the hosts of the show, Adam and Jamie, began the episode with a request to recreate the mythical heat ray that had been used by Archimedes to repel an entire military during his day. According to the legend, back in 212 BC, an inventor and philosopher of the time known as Archimedes was at the shores of a massive siege between his own people and a number of Roman warships during the siege of Syracuse. Fully aware that his people were both outnumbered and outmatched, Archimedes began constructing what was referred to as a burning glass that could burn the Roman warships and protect his people. Various legends and different variations exist, claiming that he used one large mirror to reflect direct sunlight, while others assert that he used the shields of 70 soldiers to redirect the light at the warships, setting them on fire. This legend has often been challenged by numerous researchers from around the world, contending that such a story is completely fabricated and that the physics of the encounter don't seem to add up. This led to the TV show Mythbusters attempting to recreate the event, only to find that they were completely unable to ignite a model ship using reflective shields in the recreation of a death ray, as outlined by Archimedes. Despite these findings, many still believe that the event did occur at one time, given the fact that the legend had been recorded by both Greek and Roman historians who recounted the event. Considering that these historians only wrote down verifiable events, it leads many to believe that perhaps Archimedes constructed a wholly different form of technology to assist with his death ray, which ultimately led to the end of the Roman siege at Syracuse. Number 9. The fall of the Sumerians. Despite their influence, power, strange myths, and religions, as well as their incredible dominance in the evolution of humanity throughout these ancient times, it appears that the ancient Sumerian civilization came and went in the same mysterious fashion that the civilization has been shrouded in since its discovery. Though some researchers believe that the ancient Sumerians may have been conquered by the Akkadians, not much is truly known about the ancient civilization, and next to nothing can be gathered as to their origin or their disappearance, leaving humanity to be a species with an unending form of amnesia surrounding our history, creation, and evolution. If these mysteries could ever be uncovered, however, it could prove to be the last missing piece to the puzzle of the nature of existence itself. Number 8. Giant stones of Baalbek in Lebanon. The most mysterious ruins of the Roman Empire lie in the city of Baalbek in Lebanon. Among these ruins lie the giant stones. During the Roman era, the city of Baalbek was known as Heliopolis, or the City of the Sun. This city featured a huge temple and various other buildings. Modern-day archaeologists have been able to identify most of the buildings and their usage, but the giant stones that lie among the ancient ruins are still unexplained. Some of these stones are considered to be from an even earlier era. Weighing more than 1,000 tons each, there are 27 such stones. The largest stone weighs 1,500 tons. It's considered to be the largest cut stone in the world, and the fact that the movement of this stone is still a huge engineering challenge leaves many questions. For example, what technology was used to carve these stones? And how did they move these giant stones? The scale of these stones is absolutely mind-blowing. Another incredible fact that has baffled the archaeologists is the amazingly precise positioning and fitting of these stones. To give you some idea, these stones are fitted with such accuracy that it is almost impossible to insert even a needle between them. Many people believe that some of the earlier civilizations were way more advanced in science and technology than us, so they were able to construct such megastructures that we are not able to explain. Some people are of the opinion that the stones were carved and moved by an early civilization of giants who could lift these stones easily. Maybe one day our civilization will get advanced enough to be able to explain and understand such marvels of ancient civilizations. Number 7. Flexible Roman glass. There have been plenty of inventions made by the Roman Empire that seem to have been lost to history despite being of a nature that seems superior to our modern-day inventions. One of these incredible lost inventions of the Roman Empire was that of flexible Roman glass. According to the stories written down by the Roman historian Pliny the Elder in his works known as Natural History, there was a renowned glassmaker that was capable of making a flexible Roman glass that was incapable of shattering and was able to bend only to resume back to its normal shape after being bent. The account details that the recipe was discovered during the reign of the Roman Emperor Tiberius Caesar. who shut down the workshop of the glassmaker to prevent other glass blowers and prices of precious minerals from collapsing by the introduction of this new material and technique. Because of this, the technology would be lost to time. Today, the only comparable technique to that of unbreakable glass is that of plastic used in the modern day. It could very well be that the glassmaker used plastic to have formed bottles, given the fact that the exact procedure and recipe have been lost to time. Number 6. The Greek military and Greek fire. Back in 672 AD, there began to be recordings and accounts of the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, using what was later named Greek fire to win a number of naval battles that had previously left their empire completely vulnerable to a number of sieges and naval attacks. This Greek fire had a number of strange characteristics that researchers today are using to try to understand what could have been the formula for the compounds used to create the primitive flamethrower used to burn ships approaching the lands of the Byzantine Empire. According to the written accounts, the Byzantine Empire was capable of using a hose-like mechanism described as ending in a pointed cap that would pressurize and shoot out a chemical compound that was capable of igniting when making contact with water. This led to the Byzantine Empire winning a number of strategic naval encounters by merely igniting enemy ships on fire whenever they had tried to approach too closely. Additionally, historians on both sides of the fight recounted that the fire was capable of burning even when floating atop the water, a nearly impossible to understand trait of fire at the time of its occurrence. Today, researchers believe that the compound was made out of some form of apatha or quicklime, but the exact chemical compound is unknown in the modern day. The exact mechanism for the pressurized hose has also been lost to the written accounts. Despite being one of the most effective naval weapons of its time, even working to end a number of sieges that allowed the Byzantine Empire to survive several more decades, the weapon and chemical compound were such closely guarded secrets that eventually, the weapon was lost to time. Number 5. Supermassive black holes, pinning down the age of the universe. A supermassive black hole contains a mass of the order of thousands up to billions of times the mass of the Sun. Its gravitational force is so strong that light cannot escape. The strong gravity occurs because matter has been pressed into a tiny space. From observation, it has been proven that all large galaxies have supermassive black holes at their center. The research on black holes started in 1963 by Martin Schmidt. The black hole was originally thought to be a star, but it proved puzzling. Astronomers think supermassive black holes and the galaxies they are in are formed at about the same time, and the size of the supermassive black hole is directly proportional to the size of the galaxy it is in. The location of the supermassive black hole in the Milky Way galaxy corresponds with the location of Sagittarius A in the galactic core, which is 26,000 light-years from the solar system. The observation of distant luminous quasars has been a major constraining factor for theories of supermassive black hole formation. It indicates that supermassive black holes of billions of solar masses had already formed when the galaxy was less than 1 billion years old. Number 4. The Miracle of the Sun. In 1917, 3 poor children in the town of Fatima in Portugal claimed that the Virgin Mary was appearing to them. Not only that, they also claimed that she would be performing a public miracle on the 13th of October in 1917 in a certain field. A huge crowd comprising thousands of local people gathered on the 13th of October to see the miracle. As you would expect, the crowd had people from all walks of life. Some of them were believers, and some were skeptics. According to the believers, an amazing miracle happened that day. The sun started spinning and then moving haphazardly across the sky. As it moved, it gave off bright colors. The incident is hard to believe, as people in other parts of the world did not see the sun move, as reported by the believers of the miracle of the sun. Another reason why most people do not believe in this incident is the lack of photographic evidence. Many people present in the crowd that day took photos. However, none of the photos that appeared showed the sun except for one photo. This photograph surfaced several years after the incident, and it shows the sun as a slightly darker spot in the middle right side of the photograph. This is an unusual place for the sun to be. Many of the believers of the incident use this photograph as evidence. However, not much is known about this photograph. Some people have claimed that it was taken at another place and at another time. Whatever the truth of the miracle of the sun and its photographic evidence is, it seems very likely that the believers of the incident will continue to present this photograph as evidence of the event actually happening. Number 3. The mysterious radio signals from the M82 galaxy. For 10 years now, astronomers have been picking up mysterious radio signals from the M82 galaxy. Located about 12 million light-years away, Messier 82 is a starburst galaxy located in the Ursa Major constellation. This galaxy is 5 times more luminous than our Milky Way galaxy, and its center is 100 times more luminous than our galaxy's center. Receiving a radio signal from such a distant galaxy is quite mind-blowing. It opens up all kinds of possibilities. Researchers do not know anything about the object that is making these signals. The first signal from the M82 galaxy was received by the Parkes Radio Telescope in Australia. Up until now, more than 20 signals have been discovered. As you would expect, this is one of the hottest topics in astronomy today. Some scientists have given the theory that these signals are coming from the high-energy pulsars that are being consumed by a black hole in the M82 galaxy. Another theory points toward the possibility of massive cosmic explosions. And then there is always a possibility, as per our own understanding, that an alien race might just be trying to contact us. The discovery of these mysterious radio signals from the M82 galaxy has given scientists a new hope about the possibility of an alien civilization. At the same time, it has also opened up a whole new mystery to be solved by researchers. Will we be able to see this mystery unfold during our lifetime? Only time will tell. Number 2. The Great White Shark Case. One of the most recent underwater mysteries that have left many researchers fearful for what might be lurking under the waters is that of the missing great white shark case. According to a research report filed back in 2003, scientists had placed a tracking device on a 9-foot-long great white shark located off the coast of Australia. The purpose of this tagging was to gather research information relative to the habits of the creature, and so scientists chose the largest shark in the region in the hopes that it would live a longer life as it had fewer predators capable of taking it down. However, only a few days later, that would prove to not be the case. Suddenly, the tracking device showed the shark descend more than 1,900 feet in a matter of seconds, with its body temperature reaching heats 20 degrees higher than it's physically capable of supporting, despite being at such lower and colder depths. This left researchers believing that a massive animal swallowed the creature whole and dove down deeper than any other larger animals of its size are capable of reaching. This has left many wondering if there is a much larger species of shark that is capable of swallowing the 9-foot-long great white shark in one gulp, as well as generating caloric heat temperatures far greater than any other animal known in the animal kingdom. 1. The mystery of Roman concrete. Though many will claim that our modern-day concrete is equivalent to that of ancient Roman concrete, educated researchers are well aware of the lost technology and how our modern-day construction efforts pale in comparison to that of ancient Rome. For reasons not entirely known, Roman concrete was capable of setting and hardening even when underwater, as well as the fact that the concrete structures were far more stable and capable of supporting stress than modern-day concrete, which requires the addition of rebar to handle tensile strength to prevent the concrete from breaking down. The use of this concrete allowed the Roman Empire to accomplish engineering feats that rival even the greatest construction efforts of the modern day, and to have formed structures millennia ago that will more than outlast any modern-day constructions fitted with the greatest techniques in building. In fact, researchers estimate that if humans were to disappear, the last standing man-made structures would be that of the ancient pyramids of Giza and those made using Roman concrete. If Mars manages to leave us disappointed with no living creatures on it, we might as well take a look at Proxima Centauri b. This terrestrial exoplanet is orbiting the habitable zone and it has just been discovered. This planet has a mass that is about 30% larger than Earth, and the orbital period of this planet seems to be around 11.2 Earth days. 1 year equals 11.2 days. A team of astronomers from all around the world studied the prospects for this recently discovered planet. We all know that water is the key to life, but it is still unknown how much water does this planet really have. The planet is said to be at least 5 billion years old, and it receives a significantly higher amount of high-energy radiation than our own planet, about 60 times higher. And while the amount of water on this planet remains unknown, the calculations reveal that Proxima has probably lost about 1/8, all thanks to the irradiation in the first 100 million years after the formation of this planet. Thanks to the technology these days, the scientists managed to create a sophisticated 3D model of this planet, and they are currently studying the scenario in which Proxima b actually has an atmosphere and surface water. Some scientists believe that Proxima Centauri b features liquid water, but only in the sunniest region, probably in an area in the hemisphere that faces the star or even in a tropical belt. Whether or not this planet is habitable, it surely makes it very interesting to know about. It would be great to see that the nearest star to the Sun is also a host to us unknown extraterrestrial species. Martian bacteria methane cycle. In 2004, the initial signs of life on Mars arose for NASA astrobiologists and research scientists. They saw signs of a methane plume ejecting from the surface of Mars and began to quickly theorize its implications as an organic molecule. And after many sleepless nights, worked to send a Martian rover with the capability of testing the Martian surface for additional organic molecules. Later in 2014, Martian rover Curiosity began collecting evidence of methane traces in the Martian atmosphere and made a startling discovery. The Martian rover found that the methane on Mars grew more concentrated by season in the Martian atmosphere and directly correlated with the Martian seasons. Overall, this led researchers to believe that this correlation between concentration by season was additional proof to the hypothesis that Mars contains some form of life. Methane is also an organic molecule, and the majority of methane on Earth also correlates with our seasons as certain bacteria and microbes eject this organic molecule into the atmosphere during summer and autumn seasons. Similar to what the data shows in spikes of methane across the Martian atmosphere. Although definitive signs of life have yet to be observed on the red planet, the odds of this observation seem to be more and more promising with the passing years as Curiosity uncovers additional complex organic molecules and continues its drilling processes to locate biosignatures of life. Bryant Johnson, a drunk man from the future. In 2017, there have been many claims of time travelers. Apparently, various people have claimed to be time travelers. Last year, not many seemed to be telling the truth, though. One night, the police officers in Casper, Wyoming actually got called in order to deal with a drunk man who had been roaming the streets. This drunk man turned out to be Bryant Johnson, a man who claimed he actually came from 2048. According to his story, he is a time traveler who went back to 2017 in order to warn us about an alien invasion that is supposed to happen in 2018. His story is funny, though. He said he wanted to travel to 2018, but the aliens got him completely drunk, so he ended up arriving 1 year earlier than supposed to. Luckily, his story did not really turn out to be true at all. His time-traveling experience was just an excuse to avoid public drunkenness charges, and he has been arrested. Baghdad Battery. Many will often dispute supposed writings of talking statues, massive machines, and artificial lighting of the past, given that it would have been impossible to have powered such devices since there had been no developments or evidence in the realm of electricity and electrical production. This claim has, however, been proven false after the discovery of the Baghdad Battery by archaeologists in the region of Iraq and in the surrounding areas. The Baghdad Battery is often described as a potential galvanic cell, as the entire body is a large vase filled with a cylinder of iron wrapped with copper sheeting. When the vase is filled with grape juice, an old drink, it has been found that the Baghdad Battery generates a significant electric current, which could have been used for electroplating and have essentially created a battery used for further electrical requirements. Though many archaeologists reject this claim, a man by the name of Wilhelm Koenig worked as an assistant at the National Museum of Iraq and began noticing ancient artifacts of very fine silver-coated and small trace amounts of gold, similar to the technique of electroplating. This led to further supporting experiments by Willard Gray and W. Hansen that recreated galvanic cells from the Baghdad Battery using both grape juice and vinegar, another common chemical available at the time. New Guinean iguanodon. A description similar to that of a real-life Jurassic Park-type scenario is that of the local encounters residents experienced in Papua New Guinea a few miles south of Rabaul back in the month of March 2004. Locals began reporting in mass waves that a dinosaur that stood over 3 meters tall had a body that was large and gray in color, that possessed the head similar to that of a dog and had the tail of a crocodile, was terrorizing a small village and destroying everything in its path. This led to multiple news outlets in the area also reporting the same finding, and the local police quickly began investigating the matter. When the police entered the small village, they reported that there indeed was some kind of large creature wreaking havoc and reported it immediately to all the stations and emergency services nearby. This led the government to send out an SBS alert, a special broadcasting emergency service alert that reported that a police hunting party had gone out in search of the creature out in the jungles of Papua New Guinea, and that villagers in the volcanic island province of East New Britain should evacuate if able. A reporter by the name of Christine Samé, after hearing the initial reports by other news outlets of the creature, immediately raced out to the scene of the crime to better understand what was transpiring. This led to her not only seeing the creature, but able to write down a complete description of its behaviors, size, and appearance. Other reporters surfaced claiming that 3 dogs had been eaten by the creature and 6 police officers, armed with M16s and rifles, had taken the creature down and was to be examined for further study at a hidden location. The disappearance of Baramanger Island, made popular by the BBC's documentary Mexico's Missing Island. The major island is a phantom islet that, according to maps as recent as the middle of the 19th century, should currently be lying off of the north coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. However, for some inexplicable reason, when a recent survey was conducted back in 1997 involving a team of surveyors charting lands to update the Mexican border, the team was unable to locate Baramanger Island and seemingly found that it had completely vanished from existence. This proved to be a very prominent issue for the Mexican government, as the Baramanger Island helped the country of Mexico extend its borders another 14 miles past the land claimed on this island. This then allowed the country's territorial borders to cover sensitive areas of water located off the coast of the island that otherwise would have been deemed international waters and then could be used by any other nation whatsoever. This border extension was due solely to the existence of the small island as outlined in the United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea, which strictly specifies that a nation's territorial border that extends out into open waters can only be up to 14 miles off of the furthermost coast under the nation's influence. This led many different conspiracy theorists to question that perhaps the island was purposefully destroyed by the United States government in an effort to gain access to these waters that lay within the extended borders of Mexico. Additionally, this pushed the Mexican government to launch a detailed investigation into the area in an attempt to better understand what took place. On March 20th of 2009, the National Autonomous University of Mexico, as instructed by the Mexican government, was at the center of investigations all throughout the region of where the island was said to rest in an attempt to naturally explain the island's disappearance. The team used an oceanographic vessel known as the Justo Sierra, of which was equipped with state-of-the-art devices to help uncover any low-lying lands or completely demolished areas. However, at the end of June of that year, the investigation was ended with overwhelming evidence that not only was there no evidence of such a conspiracy, but that there had been no trace of an island ever existed in the area, sunken or otherwise. The Area 51 caller and Art Bell. Back on September 11, 1997, a man who worked at Area 51 called into Coast to Coast AM. He was terrified for his life. His voice was trembling. He described extra-dimensional beings. He even mentioned plots made by the government that would drastically change the world we live in. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable, he said. To make the situation even more terrifying, the satellite transmission was lost. 7 months later, Art Bell received another call from the same man. This time, the man claimed his first call was a prank, a hoax. Ever since the second call, there were many debates related to these calls. Was the first call real? Why was he so terrified if it was not the truth? There is a possibility both of these calls were fake, but it is surely very strange that the satellite went out during the first call. The satellite going off at that exact moment is extremely weird. Many people believe the first call was actually true. They believe he called it a hoax because he had been scared for his life. He might have wanted to have peace and not be bothered by media. It is extremely hard to determine why this man decided to make these calls in the first place, but it is surely a mystery we are never going to get a real answer to. Stonehenge, always a major fascination amongst the locals of the area and researchers from around the world. Stonehenge has proven to be quite a mystery to anyone who even attempts to try to understand its construction and the techniques behind it. Not only are the large blocks used so massive that even modern means of construction would fail in regards to establishing Stonehenge, but the source of the blocks appears to have been carved from hundreds of miles away, which leads many researchers to question the ability of transporting such large stones to the area. To add to this bizarre strangeness of the formation of Stonehenge, it has been discovered that the structure appears to have been built with astonishing precision in its placement and carved creation. The structure appears to be able to be used as a complex calendar and can even keep track of time to an incredibly mysterious, accurate degree. This does insinuate, however, that not only did the ancients have the technology to cut the stones with laser precision, transport the massive blocks, lift them with tremendous force, and place them with perfect alignment, but that our ancestors also had the ability to make megalithic constructions in a very short span of time. This continues to baffle researchers to this day who work to uncover more secrets regarding Stonehenge, such as its weird electromagnetic properties and special materials used in its creation. Others have even argued that the formation of the Great Stonehenge could be direct proof of ancient technologies and extraterrestrial intervention. Andrew Biago, a lawyer with time-traveling experience. As strange as it might sound, this Seattle lawyer claims that he actually time-traveled. Andrew Biago not only claims he traveled to the future, but he also claims to have been traveling to Mars and the past. Andrew has some very interesting claims. One of them is his Mars travel back in 1981, together with a young Barack Obama and William Stillings. Apparently, they were all involved in a Defense Advanced Research Projects agency creating a time machine. He also claims that the project, named Pegasus, was actually active between 1968 and 1972. This project led them to the creation of a real working time machine. Andrew claims he had used the time machine to travel back to the year 1863 just to listen to one of Abraham Lincoln's speeches. He also traveled to the year 2050. For according to his claims, the United States government frequently used this time machine to deploy various military units. Unlike most of the time travelers, Andrew did not provide us with any future predictions that are worth mentioning. The Wyoming incident, the mysterious TV transmission. The Wyoming incident is probably one of the most deliberated and researched pieces. There is a possibility you have never even heard of this one, but do not worry. The entire incident was explained as a television broadcast hijacking. The hacker behind all of this managed to interrupt a local program channel and aired his video for a whole 6 minutes during a newscast. The video was extremely bizarre, confusing, and very unsettling. There were multiple disembodied heads, strange facial expressions, and from various camera angles. Soon after, a special presentation has been shown, followed by a message. You will see such pretty things. This video has been remembered. It had rather strange effects on its viewers. People who decided not to change the channel and continued to watch the video slowly experienced dizziness, headaches, vomiting, and physical discomforts. To make it even worse, some of them were feeling paranoia, followed by visual and auditory hallucinations as well. After the examination of the sounds which played throughout the video, the researchers found that the frequency was the reason for all these physical and mental issues. Frequencies within 17 Hz and 19 Hz range are known to cause distorted vision, headaches, nausea, and vibrations of the human eyeball. 80 Hz frequency is often said to be the cause of supernatural and paranormal occurrences. These results from a certain electrical frequency or sound, and they can get different responses from the human body. Aside from very disturbing sounds, there were series of numbers displayed as 33333333. People managed to explain this as a sum of each set of threes is 9. When we invert all threes, it becomes a 666. The Close Encounters of Cossack. While there are a tremendous number of reported cases of eyewitness accounts of unidentified flying objects, it is very rare for eyewitnesses to report a direct sighting of an alien presence or terrestrial life form seen in clear detail during the event. This does not appear to be the case when analyzing the close encounters of the commune of Cossack located in France. On the 19th of August, back in 1967, two children, a 13-year-old boy and his 9-year-old sister, ran to the police and alerted them of a strange sighting. They claimed that as they were watching the cows in a nearby field, they noticed four small people covered in a weird dark material standing at roughly 47 inches tall. At first, they were not afraid of these strange people and originally thought they were other children around their age. But they began to panic when these beings suddenly began to rise in the air and float up toward a metal disc-like object floating above them, which was no more than roughly 15 feet in diameter. At first, the officers didn't know what to make of the kids' story, but noticed that the children appeared to be truly fearful as they continued to describe the scene in great detail. Quickly, the officers followed the children to the sighting and noticed a strange sulfur smell in the air near where the object was seen hovering, and a large patch of dried grass had suddenly appeared in the area. After the police filed the report of the incident, the French government stepped in and conducted their own private investigations of the event. They have yet to release any gathered information or investigation details. As time went on, the story died down, and the government felt compelled to keep all gathered details of the investigation a secret, refusing to acknowledge the case's existence up until March 2007, when the French government released hundreds of declassified UFO investigations on their government website over 40 years after the event. Number 2. Hundreds of millions of planets and the Andromeda Galaxy. The Andromeda Galaxy, alternatively known as Messier 31, M31, or NGC 224, was originally known as the Nebula Galaxy. The Andromeda Galaxy is the closest major spiral galaxy to our Milky Way, with a diameter of 220,000 light-years. Although we have several dozen galaxies closer, the Andromeda Galaxy can truly be seen on a clear night from a place with a dark sky. The distance of the galaxy to Earth is currently at 2,500,000.0 light-years. The current name given to the galaxy was derived from the Andromeda constellation, which appears in the Earth's sky. The Andromeda Galaxy has an estimated number of stars at about 1 trillion, which is about twice the number of stars in our Milky Way galaxy. About 10 billion years ago, the Andromeda Galaxy was formed from the collision and merger of protogalaxies. Initially, astronomers thought the Andromeda Galaxy was a solar system in the process of formation. However, in the 20th century, the Andromeda Galaxy was resolved into individual stars. Even though the Andromeda Galaxy has more stars than our Milky Way galaxy, its mass is not as much because the Milky Way is assumed to contain more dark matter. The Andromeda Galaxy has a concentrated bulge of matter in the middle, surrounded by a disk of gas, dust, and stars with an immense halo. The Andromeda has dwarf galaxies, just like the Milky Way, with about 14 known galaxies. The only two galaxies that are best known and readily observed are M32 and M110. In the next 4 billion years, astronomers estimate that the Andromeda Galaxy will collide with the Milky Way, and this merger will end after 6 billion years from now. The Andromeda Galaxy is approaching the Milky Way at about 68 miles per second. This collision will permanently change the structure of these two galaxies. However, before that time comes, the Sun will have swollen to a red giant, consuming terrestrial planets like Earth. We certainly have more to be concerned about before the collision between the two galaxies. Number 3. The Mokombembe. One of the most popular myths of a terrifyingly large creature roaming the lands of the Congo is that of the Mokombembe, known in its native language as the one who stops the flow of rivers. The creature's designs are similar to that of a sauropod dinosaur, a tall monstrosity with a long neck and a larger flowing tail to match. The size of its body is similar to that of a hippopotamus, up to an elephant, and it has a neck reportedly longer than 8 meters in length. Reports out of the Congo River Basin claim that the creature stands at more than 75 feet in length and hides in a thick forest located throughout the northernmost point of the Congo. Given the fact that the water could act like a natural form of buoyancy for the animal to grow to such sizes while also providing a rich source of prey and drinking water, it appears that the jungles of the Congo and the river basin would be a natural location for such a large creature. Legions of sightings of the creature go back thousands of years, according to the native tribes in the region, and reports of the creature range all the way up to the modern day, with even a group of French priests that traveled throughout the region confirming the sighting of this modern-day dinosaur. Though no evidence has been gathered of the creature in the modern day, many people believe that there will be more than enough evidence to surface in time. Number 4. Slayer Slab. Following mysteries surrounding the legends of the Knuckers and other dragon-like stories across England, the rumors surrounding the Slayer's Slab continue to be one of the centers of folklore stories about a knight slaying the last Knucker found in England. According to the story, the King of Sussex believed that the Knucker living nearby their collection of villages was becoming far too powerful for any one man to defeat. This led him to approach a wide variety of knights in the hope that a small army could be formed, but no man was willing to fight for the king to slay such a beast. It was not until the King of Sussex offered his daughter's hand in marriage that a single knight came to the king in the hopes of defeating the dragon and wedding the princess. Of the 6 knights, it was this one who was willing to take on the challenge. The knights would go on to slay the dragon when they found it residing in a small pond referred to as its Knucker Hole located near Leominster. This knight earned the title of the Slayer after accomplishing such a feat after the beast was defeated. The knight returned to marry the daughter and later settled down in Leominster for the rest of his natural life. The Slayer would later pass away in the town, leading to the rumors of the Slayer's Slab, an unmarked gravestone located at a church in Leominster that has no name or marking on the tombstone except for a cross overlaying a herringbone pattern, which led many people to believe it's the grave of the Slayer that defeated the last dragon of England. Number 5. The Taos Hum. The small town of Taos, located in the southern state of New Mexico, is no stranger to odd reports and strange sightings. In fact, the small town is known for being a very laid-back artsy community and has been the town of origin for many famous celebrities of all kinds. It is no wonder then that when the initial reports of residents calling in about a strange humming sound of unknown origin, many speculated that it could have been nothing more than perhaps a modern art installation or a mundane cause. It did not take long, however, for this strange hum to be treated more seriously when further reports began coming in one after the other. Nicknamed the Taos Hum, this strange noise was first reported back in the early 1990s, sparking Joe Mullins, a local professor of engineering at the University of New Mexico, to conduct research into the matter. He found that the Taos Hum could only be heard by a very select group of people, making up about 2% of the local population. After setting up sensitive equipment and conducting extensive testing of the area, he could find no unusual vibrations or sounds. Whether the noise itself was caused by external or internal factors was completely undetermined. Not only did this puzzle the professor, but it seemed to be an unexplainable phenomenon for other researchers who looked into the matter. To this day, reports of a strange humming at different times of the day have been heard, and no one finds themselves any closer to an answer after all these years. Psychologists have posited that the Taos Hum could be nothing more than a form of mild mass hysteria, where many people claim to hear it due to becoming aware of the phenomenon. Interestingly enough, many claim that this cannot possibly be the case, as even many tourists visiting the area, unaware of the legends of the Taos Hum, claim to hear a strange humming noise upon entering the town. Number 6. The Phaistos Disc. The Phaistos Disc, found on the island of Crete, is a fired clay disc located inside the Minoan Palace of Phaistos. It has left many professional and amateur archaeologists struggling to decode the strange symbols found on the disc. Interestingly enough, it appears that the disc follows a lot of the same principles of modern-day discs, such as creating the symbols in an outward spiraling motion and having a spiraling line starting from the middle of the disc and radiating outwards. The symbols are not recognized as being a language of any kind and have left many wondering if they are instead a number of visual symbols that have no specific meaning but provide information based on context. Such examples of symbols like these in the modern day are that of stop signs, pedestrian crossing signs, and emojis. These are symbols used in everyday life but have no real decipherable language. Located on the face of the disc are a number of strange symbols that depict the heads of people, hides of animals, water, filters, and a number of strange tools that don't seem to repeat in any way. The disc also has 2 distinct sides, known as Side A and Side B, depicting different symbols with no real connection to the opposite side. This enigmatic and believed to be impossible to decipher text has led to a number of online forums dedicated to solving this strange artifact, with several different lists describing each symbol and trying to better understand the use and purpose behind it. Many have argued that if the symbols had no specific language, they would not be ordered on the disc in any way and would instead be randomly carved images. Given that they are in an ordered position and seem to face in a specific direction, it is believed that they may represent a decipherable language. Number 7. Henry Hudson's Mermaid. In 1608, Henry Hudson and his crew were passing through the cold waters of the Bering Sea when something strange happened. Hudson wrote the entire account in his journal. According to him, while passing through the Bering Sea, he had a very strange encounter with mermaids. He wrote that a mermaid saw the ship and its crew and disappeared into the sea. It returned after a while with a number of other mermaids. He described the mermaids as women with bodies as large as men in his crew. The mermaids had very white skin and long dark hair. The lower parts of their bodies had tails like dolphins with spots on them. Hudson was fascinated to see such an extraordinary discovery of mermaids. There have been many accounts of mermaid sightings during the past few centuries, and there is very little credibility in most of the accounts. Marine life experts believe that most of these sightings actually happened in areas where animals had tails like those of mermaids. One of the most common animals that can be mistaken for a mermaid is a manatee. However, Henry Hudson's case is quite different. The place where he saw these mermaids doesn't have any manatees. The clear description of the entire event by an experienced sailor like Henry Hudson leaves no chance that he and his crew mistook some other animals as mermaids. While many historians and marine biologists believe that the story of Henry Hudson could be entirely made up, there are some who believe that the sailor and his men saw something entirely unique that day. The people who believe in Henry Hudson's story are of the opinion that our limited knowledge about the oceans and marine life that resides in it makes it impossible for us to dismiss such accounts. Every year, thousands of new creatures are discovered in the seas around the world, and it is entirely possible that, if not mermaids, something that looks very much like them might be present in the depths of the seas or on uninhabited distant islands. Someday, we might just be able to discover them. Number 8. Black dogs of the British Isles. For reasons not entirely understood, there appear to be a string of reported incidents following similar descriptions of a black, ghost-like dog that has been seen all around the British Isles. Reports of such a creature come from various locations, including Aylesbury, Lyme Regis, Newgate, Northrop, and more, with many independent sightings from all throughout the area. According to witnesses, the black dogs of the British Isles are otherworldly apparitions, which many believe to be hellhounds ready to attack anyone nearby. They are described as larger than a normal dog, with a shadow-like body and glowing red eyes. Many claim to have encountered the creature shortly after a terrible storm or in areas associated with death, such as old places of execution and ancient buildings. Not much is known about these strange sightings, but they appear to be growing in number in recent years, with many claiming to have been attacked by a paranormal creature matching the description or even protected and guided by the shadowy beast when they were lost or in danger. Number 9. Sheep Squash. Similar to its Sasquatch counterpart, the sheep squash of West Virginia stands at over 9 feet tall and seems to be a strange hybrid of a large, woolly man with the face of a ram and large curling horns to match. The creature is believed to be native to the forests of West Virginia, with numerous eyewitness reports of the creature coming from various woodlands and mountainous areas. In 1995, an incident involving a group of campers in the forest at night in an area located around a dense forest featured the monster in its entirety. According to the campers, they first heard what was described as the huffing and snorting of a bear in the region, only for the large sheep squash creature to come running out of the bushes and attempt to attack them. Although they ran away completely unharmed, they claimed they could hear the monster's terrible screams chasing them through the forest. Witness reports of the creature today vary, with some describing it as running on 2 legs and others as crawling on all 4s, often with a long tail behind it. Regardless of these variations in witness accounts, they all compare the monster to that of a ram and give it the name the sheep squash. Today, the creature is known to inhabit mountainous regions all throughout North America, as well as making rare appearances in the denser South American jungles located in Brazil. There has been no explanation of the creature, and it appears that any further evidence surrounding the creature's existence is up for question. Number 10. Mysterious tunnel beneath Mexican pyramids. A few years ago, archaeologists discovered a mysterious tunnel and chamber hidden beneath a 2,000-year-old pyramid during a study of the structure by researchers from the National Institute of Anthropology. The tunnel's entrance was found only a couple of weeks ago. The director of the conservation project, Veronica, stated that the tunnel is toward the south of the Plaza de la Luna, but it's likely that there is another entrance toward the eastern side. Archaeologists and researchers have suggested that the new chamber could contain human remains as well as other artifacts, some of which might resemble those discovered in other parts of the pyramids. The chamber is around 26 feet under the pyramid and is thought to have a diameter of 49 feet. It's a mystery who founded this ancient city and why the civilization collapsed. The Aztecs were among the first to discover these ancient ruins and decided to name it Teotihuacan, which means the place where men become gods. Since its discovery, it's been the site of many excavations. The Pyramid of the Moon was found to have been built on elevated ground, designed to reflect the hill in the background. Close by are 12 smaller pyramids, and research has estimated that the pyramid was built between 1 and 350 AD. Tombs have been discovered inside the pyramid, containing human remains and jewelry similar to those found in other parts of the pyramids. Some believe that the newly discovered chamber will most likely contain similar items. This ongoing discovery helps us better understand what life was like during this period. The sightings at the Chernobyl power plant. After the encounters witnessed in the town of Point Pleasant back in 1966 to 1967, the Mothman would not return for another couple of decades. In that time, reported sightings of the creature were concentrated around the Soviet Union but notably centered around the town of Pripyat and at the Chernobyl power plant. There were an overwhelming number of reports in the region, and even workers at the power plants claimed to be bothered by the appearance of the creature. According to the residents of the town of Pripyat, there were numerous reports and claims of a strange winged creature often seen flying over the town late at night on a variety of different occasions. In the case of the workers at the Chernobyl power plants, there appeared to be much more alarming reports. In the months shortly following the Chernobyl incident on the 26th of April back in 1986, the workers at the Chernobyl power plant noticed the same creature reported throughout the town of Pripyat hovering over the plant. Sometimes, it even rested on the larger towers and areas of construction. What grew more perplexing for the workers were the reported incidents in which people experienced harrowing nightmares of the creature that would manifest into threatening phone calls from the creature, calling them throughout the night. Many residents of Pripyat and workers at the Chernobyl power plant described the creature as resembling the shape of a man with wings and piercing, glowing red eyes. This creature would later be referred to as the Black Bird of Chernobyl and, similar to the cases in Point Pleasant, would cease to exist in the region shortly after the Chernobyl incident. The Chernobyl incident is known worldwide as one of the largest tragedies and potentially the most environmentally damaging of its time. Although it appeared that the governments of the world were ready and prepared when it occurred, the event still saw more than 50,000 square miles of land contaminated with radioactive fallout, making a large part of it completely unusable for the foreseeable future. The site of the town of Pripyat and Chernobyl will not be habitable for another 20,000 years. It could very well be that the Mothman was warning us of an impending doom that could have left a much larger area completely uninhabitable for a much longer time. Point Lookout Lighthouse. The Point Lookout Lighthouse in the town of Scotland, located in the state of Maryland, appears to have had a long history with the supernatural. In fact, many paranormal researchers claim that the lighthouse is one of the most haunted locations in the United States. Many have reported that going to the lighthouse will turn even the most unshakable skeptics into a terrified believer. Many have often reported seeing male and female apparitions appear before them, only to vanish shortly before a picture could be taken, or others could see it. Doors will often open and close, slamming them shut. And people have also reported hearing noises of heavy footsteps running up and down the lighthouse, along with shouting, screaming, whispering, and even snoring. Many have speculated that this could be due to the fact that many years ago, the spot was once used as a hospital and prison camp for Confederate soldiers during the time of the Civil War. Although the lighthouse went out of operation back in 1985, it still holds an incredible piece of history that can be heard in the hallways of the lookout. Rigel the dog who saved lives. Newfoundland dogs are known around the world for their ability to tolerate the coldest temperatures and for working tirelessly to protect their owners from any possible dangers. This appeared to be the case when discussing the events of Rigel, the dog who helped save numerous lives during the sinking of the RMS Titanic. Rigel was the dog owned by the captain of the Titanic, who was believed to have perished early on in the sinking of the ship. However, his dog continued on with his duties. After the survivors were aboard lifeboats and the ship had sunk quite deep, Rigel the dog jumped off the starboard bow and landed in the frigid, icy waters. Many of those in lifeboats remembered seeing Rigel swimming around, almost as if completely unaffected by the temperature, doggy paddling his way onto floating debris or beside lifeboats, where he could get a moment's rest. After a long wait for search and rescue, it appeared that lifeboat number 4 was far away from the search efforts of the crews near the area. As the Carpathia came into the region, the crew of which would come to pick up the majority of the survivors, it appeared that lifeboat 4 had begun to drift under the bows of the ship and was at risk of being run down. The survivors on the lifeboat were already far too weak to make their voices heard on board. The Carpathia was commanded by a man named Jonas Briggs, who heard the barking of the dog and noticed the lifeboat drifting closer and closer to the bow. He signaled for the boat to turn, and the survivors were quickly rescued. Rigel would later be adopted by Jonas Briggs and lived out the rest of his days in a home in rural Scotland to a ripe old age. The bloop in the Julia Sound. Back in 1997, a sound was recorded emanating from deep within the ocean in vast, unexplored regions. It was so loud that it was considered one of the loudest sounds ever recorded on Earth at the time. It was given the nickname the bloop because it mimicked the sound patterns of marine animals in some ways. The strange thing about this noise was that for it to have been from a sea creature, it would have had to emanate from a large marine animal larger than the size of most naturally formed islands. Because of this impossible size, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration considered the noise to be caused by an ice quake, a large shattering sound caused when massive pieces of underwater ice crack. However, many experts reject this explanation as the noise was too loud for standard ice quake recordings. This sound remains a mystery that requires more evidence for explanation. In 1999, a similar sound was recorded, nicknamed the Julia Sound. This recording mimicked the original behaviors of the bloop recording and was analyzed in much greater detail, determining the audio closer to a cooing sound or a continuous whining noise. This renewed interest in the mystery and prompted speculation that there might be a massive underwater creature deep beneath the ocean's surface. Interestingly, new information regarding the matter has recently surfaced due to H.P. Lovecraft enthusiasts and a collection of conspiracy theory writings. According to the Lovecraftian novels, a large ancient elder god known as Cthulhu rests at the bottom of the ocean, awakening to bring doom to humanity. In Lovecraft's writings, he provided a location for the monster, somewhere around a latitude of 50 degrees south and a longitude of 100 degrees west. Interestingly, the source of the bloop sound had been traced to a 50 degrees south latitude and 102 degrees west, closely matching Lovecraft's tale. Ancient Aztec pyramids. Although many might be unaware of the discoveries, pyramids are not only found in Egypt. In fact, archaeologists and researchers have found pyramids all around the world, built by various ancient civilizations. The ancient Aztec civilization also boasts a variety of these pyramid-like structures that are more than 2,000 years old. Unfortunately, the purpose of these pyramids remains shrouded in mystery. One of these pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun, located in Teotihuacan, Mexico, stands as one of the largest constructions ever created in the Americas. It is believed to have taken more than 100 years to build and contains over 1.1 million adobe mud bricks. The Pyramid of the Sun is almost identical in size to the Great Pyramid of Giza, though it stands much shorter due to a lower angle of height. The pyramids are believed to have been the center of religious and sacrificial rituals in the Aztec civilization. Researchers suggest that the pyramids held a deep religious and spiritual significance, acting as the heart of the city's design. The pyramids, especially the Pyramid of the Sun, are believed to be the site of numerous rituals conducted by the Aztecs to ensure the safety of humanity, guaranteeing a new year. In Aztec mythology, it is believed that their gods would descend from the sky and land on the pyramids, providing gifts, using the pyramids for maintaining contact, and more. This has led to theories suggesting that the pyramids may have been ancient landing sites for extraterrestrial visitors, given the descriptions of God's interactions with the structures. Today, there is no consensus on the exact purpose of these pyramids, but they are believed to be closely tied to the Aztec civilization's religious and spiritual practices and their connection to celestial bodies. The Adaro merperson. One of the darker tales involving mythical sea creatures is that of the Adaro merperson. Unlike traditional mermaid legends, Adaro creatures are described as evil spirits that roam the Pacific Ocean, residing at deep depths in the darkest regions of the ocean. They share some physical characteristics with mermaids, such as the humanoid appearance with large gills behind their ears, but they have a long tail fin instead of feet and a shark-like dorsal fin that can grow into a large horn. They also have a massive shark spear growing from the top of their heads, similar to a swordfish or a sawfish. According to legend, Adaro creatures are born when an evil person falls into the ocean and passes away. This evil lingers in the ocean, forming the body of an Adaro, which then continues to grow in numbers. They are believed to reside close to the Solomon Islands and are considered far more sinister than traditional mermaid legends. Encounters with the Adaro are best avoided. The Loch Ness Monster. Possibly one of the biggest ocean mysteries is the search for the Loch Ness Monster. Sightings of the creature have been associated with the long-extinct plesiosaur, a dinosaur. In recent years, scientists discovered that another supposedly extinct species, the vampire squid, is still alive in deep, unexplored ocean depths. The only known natural predator to the vampire squid is the plesiosaur. This discovery has led some to believe that the Loch Ness Monster could be a surviving species of plesiosaur inhabiting deep, unexplored ocean areas. In fact, in the early 1900s, Japanese fishermen caught a large creature that closely resembled a living plesiosaur, washed up near the beaches. This discovery led experts to consider the possibility of a surviving dinosaur species. However, until further exploration can be conducted in deeper ocean areas, such as the Marianas Trench, the Loch Ness Monster will remain one of the ocean's many mysteries. The massive circular stone structure under the Sea of Galilee. Referred to as the Mound in the Sea, there is a strange underwater anomaly directly beneath the Sea of Galilee, located at its shallowest section. The mound was discovered in 2003 when researchers were searching for ancient artifacts underwater. After further analysis, researchers believe that the area is artificial, formed by ancient people. The mound, located in 30 feet of water, may have been above water and used as a construction site in ancient times. The mound is constructed using basalt rocks stacked into a cone shape, and it is believed to be twice the size of Stonehenge. Researchers have speculated about its purpose, suggesting it might have been a large ramp or a ceremonial structure. Some believe it could have been slowly eroded by the surrounding water. Unfortunately, no further research into the area has continued, and the structure's true purpose remains a mystery. An 8.5-mile pyramid discovered underwater. In 2016, a strange and unexplainable deep-sea anomaly was discovered. Spotted using state-of-the-art satellite information, it appears to be a massive pyramid construction underwater, far larger than the pyramids of Giza. The structure is estimated to be somewhere between 3.5 to 11 miles across and rests in the Pacific Ocean, west of Mexico. You can even view the massive structure using Google Earth satellite images. The discovery was made by Marcelo Igazustin, a researcher from Argentina. He claimed the structure could be evidence of an ancient civilization predating known human history. His theories led to various conspiracy theories, suggesting it could be a secret alien base inhabiting the ocean floor. Many have pointed to the existence of unidentified submerged objects or UFOs emerging from underwater, adding to the intrigue. The mystery surrounding this underwater pyramid continues to capture imaginations. The radiocarbon dating of the shroud. The Shroud of Turin has long been a subject of debate, including its authenticity in the age of the cloth. The radiocarbon dating of the artifact was allowed under special permission, and a tiny sample of the shroud was taken for testing. However, the sample taken was from the same damaged section that had been burned in a fire, throwing off the carbon dating results. It wasn't until later, in 2013, that testing using vibrational spectroscopy indicated the cloth was most likely produced between 300 BC and 400 AD, aligning with the time of the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. This finding provided evidence supporting the authenticity of the shroud's age. No paints or substances. In 1390, an anonymous artist claimed to have created the shroud, stating it was nothing more than a forgery, created with paints and substances. This claim led to skepticism about the shroud's authenticity for many years. However, in the early 1970s, a Turing Commission conducted tests on the shroud to determine whether paints and substances were used in its creation. Conventional and electron microscopic examinations found an absence of paints and substances on the shroud. Researchers were puzzled by this, as they expected to find evidence of pigments. Further testing of the shroud samples revealed the presence of an organic material that contained a rich and pure iron oxide. This iron oxide mimicked the properties of blood and helped debunk the claim that the image was created using paints or substances. This discovery supported the authenticity of the shroud. But fortunately, despite these testings, they concluded that the existence of the organic material was not the cause of the formation of the image and was rather a layer found on top of the image. Further testings into the iron oxide residue allowed for the blood found on the cloth to be tested and showed the same consistencies as that of beef-type blood. Though no further information could be found conclusively, no paints or physical substances of any kind were found to make up the image of the man on the shroud. The Baltic Sea anomaly. During the summer of 2011, an independent Swedish-based organization known as the Ocean X Team began its search for sunken treasures and historical artifacts that could be recovered from old rumored shipwrecks in the region of the Baltic Sea. Interestingly enough, as they continued their investigation using high-end sonar imagery equipment, they soon discovered a strange image that appeared to look strikingly similar to a sunken unidentified flying object referred to as the Baltic Sea anomaly. Below the waters appears to be a strange formation that contains sharp edges, a large overall body, and an interesting shape that looks similar to that of a large, completely circular flying saucer. Unfortunately, no efforts could be made to go deeper into the water and uncover the true nature of the object, as the structure appears to be located too deep for an independent research team to explore. Because of this, no new information regarding the structure can be uncovered, and the strange Baltic Sea anomaly is still hidden deep beneath the waters. The Forrest Fenn treasure of the Rocky Mountains. Famed millionaire art dealer and author Forrest Fenn was confronted with his own mortality back in 1988 after getting diagnosed with a terminal form of cancer. After pondering for a few years about his life and the legacy he had left behind in the world, in an almost Willy Wonka-like fashion, Forrest Fenn took a substantial amount from his art collection and prized artifacts valued at $10 million. And he hid it somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. Treasure hunters have scoured the Rockies in search of the chest filled with gold and other valuable items. Many have been drawn by Fenn's cryptic poem in his memoir, which he said contains 9 clues to the chest's location. However, as of my knowledge cutoff in September 2021, the treasure had not yet been found. Today, he hid it inside a wooden box in a random part of the Rocky Mountains. He later detailed in a poem several clues to help treasure seekers locate the hidden riches. Furthermore, in an interview back in May of 2017, he confirmed that although people had figured out the clues and potential locations of the treasure, none had discovered the clues in the correct order and had failed to locate the treasure. Specifically, he later clarified that several treasure seekers had been roughly within 200 feet of the treasure, and many more were within 500 feet of the box. Most treasure hunters today are still in search of the famed treasure of Forrest Fenn, and none have provided any substantial evidence of obtaining the treasure. This further inspires treasure hunters to continue their search in the hopes of the famed riches and luxurious life that accompany it. It's important, however, not to get your hopes up too high. Although it is confirmed that the treasure exists, Forrest Fenn himself claimed that it would probably take 10,000 years before a single soul will ever find the treasure. This does not deter true treasure hunters, though, as they write that the thrill of treasure hunting, hiking through the Rocky Mountains, and working to be credited as the one who figures out the clues and finds the treasure is more than a reward on its own. And the money involved is merely an added pleasure. On April 5, 1720, Dutch navigator Jacob Roggeveen visited Easter Island, and he remained the first outside human contact with the natives of the region. Roggeveen and his crew wrote vast documents and created many detailed drawings of the island and large stones that appeared to be buried deep in the ground due to natural erosion and winds. What puzzled the crew was that these large stones appeared to have been large statues carved from massive rocks and moved across great distances, seemingly impossible to accomplish. The locals had stories explaining that the statues were floated to their positions by their powerful kings and priests who had the ability to transport these large stones. Later, in a BBC documentary, many researchers would revisit the island in an attempt to explain the large stone statues but failed to come up with any reliable hypothesis regarding their movement, creation, and placement. Many have subscribed to the theory that large rolling logs would have the ability to transport the stones. However, the size of the larger heads is physically impossible to move with rolling logs, as there are no trees with trunks thick enough to support the massive weight of the Easter Island heads. But further investigation showed no residue or evidence of soot on the ceilings, as would be common with such findings. How does ASMR work? The Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, commonly referred to as ASMR in the mainstream, is more than just a trend sweeping across the internet. It is one of the biggest mysteries in medical science to this day. Roughly 95% of the population can experience it. The rest simply cannot, and the reasons for how and why it can be experienced are even further shrouded in mystery. For those not already aware of what ASMR is and wish to try the experience for yourself, it is common to find videos all across YouTube that will play sounds that can cause this sensation. Medically, ASMR is described as an experience characterized by a static-like or tingling sensation on the skin that typically begins on the scalp and moves down the back of the neck and the upper spine. It is currently not known what can cause our brain to begin feeling this tingling sensation caused by listening to auditory stimuli of a certain nature, nor the fact that certain soft sounds and whispers can cause this feeling. Some argue that it could possibly be an evolutionary adaptation that is present in most people, allowing parents to softly calm their children and lull them to sleep, and that this sensation works to relax stresses and other sensations to cause an easier sleep pattern. There is not much information to support this theory, however, and so any further advancements made relative to understanding the direct cause of ASMR have not yet been discovered. Why are there different blood types? Not much has been known about blood types since their discovery and is often the center of mystery around topics of illnesses and immunity. The variation of blood types, known as the ABO grouping, has been difficult to understand since their discovery no more than 100 years ago. These variations in blood types refer to the appearance of different antigens in the blood of an individual that can cause blood donors and recipients to have a bad reaction and rejection if the antigens do not accurately match. But the nature of these antigens and the cause of the blood types themselves seem to have no real purpose. It was believed that blood type antigens can work to prevent infections, but studies surrounding infections of all types have proven to be inconclusive. In most studies, it has been found that certain bacteria can mimic blood antigens, making them harder to detect by white blood cells and the body's natural immune system. This means that certain blood types can be more susceptible to different diseases, such as people with blood type A being more vulnerable to smallpox, and people with blood type B being more affected by E. coli infections. People with blood type O, the most common blood type, are perfectly fine without the antigens entirely. So, it begs the question, if blood types appear to worsen the condition of fighting infections and cause other evolutionary disadvantages, then why do they still exist? Why did they ever exist in the first place? Scientists struggle to understand these questions and provide answers, but it is safe to assume that understanding blood types can lead to newer discoveries that may shed light on the vital role these antigens can play in the development of health and medicine. Why do we need sleep? It might seem obvious to people who hear this question and believe that the need for sleep is already a predefined and well-understood phenomenon of the medical world. This is hardly the case. In fact, even the evolutionary advantages of sleep are not entirely known to research scientists studying this strange need. A misconception that people often seem to have is that sleep allows our body ample resetting time and our mind to relax and shut down to allow us to perform better during the day. The truth is, however, that sleep is not a resting period, and our mind actually begins going through a higher performance known as an active period in which many different functions begin happening for no understood reason. These various functions can range from information processing, restoration, and even memory strengthening. One of the added benefits of sleep, weirdly enough, is that it helps our minds reinforce information retrieved during the day and plays a vital role in memory retention. What is all the more odd, however, is that no one really knows how or why this occurs. Even though sleep is the single most activity humans will engage in throughout their lives, the secrets surrounding sleep continue to elude us. A question that further leaves scientists scratching their heads in confusion is the argument of evolutionary advantage. What could possibly be the advantage of forcing a member of the animal kingdom to spend one-third of its natural life unconscious and vulnerable, unable to eat or stay on alert for predators, or even perform natural bodily functions? This strangeness is only compounded further when analyzing that every single member of the animal kingdom requires sleep, and to deny sleep for a prolonged period of time could result in seizures and ultimately death. But why is that? No one really knows why sleep is so required and why, without it, you can die. Perhaps there is some supernatural secret to the idea of the abstract world that sleep provides us, and the answer might be far more extraordinary than scientists can understand at this moment in time. Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone. Obscure and unknown by many is the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone, a relic that has often been referred to as the Thunderstone. Thunderstones have often been referenced by many different cultures from around the world, originally seen as large stone eggs that fall from the skies as a gift from a thunder god associated with the culture. Interestingly enough, this Thunderstone was discovered back in 1872 and was believed to have been found in Meredith, New Hampshire, as workers were preparing the land for construction. The stone was regarded as being 4 inches long, 2.5 inches thick, and was described as being a dark egg-shaped stone with a variety of carved symbols and 2 large holes burrowed deep into the stone. Many ancient astronaut experts described the stone as being similar to the head of an astronaut, as one side of the egg-shaped stone shows a man's face inside the egg, as if he were wearing a large helmet. The stone appears to have also been made with incredible precision, and the authenticity of the find was put into question. In 1994, researchers performed a borescope analysis of the stone's holes and found that the appearance of the holes indicated having been constructed with power tools. The holes were described as being extremely regular throughout with no unevenness or variation. This could not be the case, however, as the stone was discovered back in 1872, more than a decade before the invention of the electric drill. This could very well be irrefutable evidence of advanced technologies discovered on an artifact hundreds of years old. Yet, despite this evidence, the object itself is widely regarded by academics as nothing more than a hoax, and further research into the stone has been completely non-existent. The Rendlesham Forest Incident. In December of 1980, near Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk, England, a series of reports were made by credible witnesses that detailed the event of an unidentified flying object landing in the forest and causing several unexplainable phenomena in the area. These witness reports would include sworn affidavits from multiple military officers in high positions and untold chaos for the coming years. At around 3 a.m. on December 26th, a security patrol at the Royal Air Force Base Woodbridge saw what they described as bright lights descending near Rendlesham Forest. The security patrol described the lights as that of a descending aircraft and quickly rushed to investigate. Upon their arrival within sight of the aircraft, the group of 2 men took notice of the fact that the native animals in the forest appeared to be screeching and going into a panicked frenzy. The men described what they saw as a glowing object, metallic in appearance, surrounded with attached and brightly colored lights. One of the members of the security patrol, Sergeant Jim Peniston, later wrote in his memo that the team had encountered a craft of unknown origin, which only helped confirm the sighting of an unidentified flying craft. Additional evidence was gathered the next day by a high military official known as Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, who found spiked radiation readings at the supposed site of the landed craft within Rendlesham Forest, as well as a triangle of depression that sank within the ground as if a large object with a massive pressing force had recently been resting on that region. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt would later be punished and reprimanded for creating witness reports, sworn affidavits, and going on record to say that he had believed the event to be extraterrestrial in nature, and that the incident had been covered up by both the governments of the United Kingdom and the United States. Hexagon on Saturn. In 1981, as both of the space probes involved in the Voyager mission passed by Saturn and began snapping many different angles of its surface. They discovered an anomalous property of the gas giant that is still unanswerable even to this day. Located at the north and south poles of the planet were large open vortexes. This was made increasingly more mysterious as the probes soon discovered that the North Pole vortex created a massive hexagonal pattern on the planet. This was compounded in its strangeness as future NASA missions would later confirm this anomalous property never before theorized on many of the other planets in the solar system. Juno, analyzing a strange hexagonal pattern on the North Pole of Jupiter, and Voyager 2 noticing vortexes on the poles of Neptune. Not only was the scientific community baffled by these findings and is still attempting to hypothesize the cause of the anomalous properties, but these discoveries led to a massive outcry from conspiracy theorists who had predicted this planetary behavior eons before the observation. The Hollow Earth community pointed to these open vortexes at the north and south poles of the planets as proof of the physics behind the conspiracy theory of the Hollow Earth hypothesis. In 1947, a man by the name of Admiral Byrd wrote a diary about his events of setting world records around the world. One of these entries included his journey to the North Pole, where he claimed he witnessed a massive open vortex that reached inside the Earth. When he flew inside, he claimed that there were inhabitants of the inside of the Earth that were not human and were entirely unaware of human beings, the creation of our weapons of mass destruction, and the governments of the world. Many Hollow Earth conspiracy theorists pointed to this witness account as evidence of their hypothesis but were argued against by scientists and physicists at the time, claiming such an idea to be impossible. Interestingly enough, Google Earth blurs out the poles of our Earth, and international laws make it illegal for planes to fly directly over poles, despite it being the shortest path from certain areas to get across the Earth. This theory only gained more traction as proof of other planets in the solar system surface containing these vortexes. Life on an asteroid. In 2007, an astrobiologist at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center named Richard Hoover made a shocking discovery when analyzing pieces of a meteorite that fell in France in 1864. He discovered structures that appeared to be fossilized microbes. Many NASA scientists challenged his hypothesis by stating that fossilization of microbes could have occurred as the meteorite struck the Earth and may not have been original inhabitants of the meteorite itself. After further research, however, this rebuttal was quickly disproven as definitive proof was established that the fossilization occurred prior to the meteorite's landing. Richard Hoover specifically stated in his papers and presentations, as many of the filaments shown in the figures are clearly embedded in the meteorite rock matrix. Consequently, it is concluded that the filaments cannot logically be interpreted as representing filamentous cyanobacteria that invaded the meteorite after its arrival. They are therefore interpreted as the indigenous remains of microfossils that were present in the meteorite rock matrix when the meteorite entered the Earth's atmosphere. These reports and hypotheses only help to contribute to the widely debated theory of panspermia, which is a recently hypothesized general theory of life that holds the belief that perhaps all life across the universe is seeded via meteorites. This posits forth the mathematical implications that life overall is not very rare and rather quite common. Perhaps even ourselves were planted here by a crashed meteorite millennia ago. The Rendlesham Forest Incident. In December 1980, near Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk, England, a series of reports emerged from credible witnesses describing an unidentified flying object landing in the forest. These reports included sworn affidavits from military officers, causing significant controversy. Around 3 a.m. on December 26th, a security patrol at the Royal Air Force Base Woodbridge noticed bright lights descending near Rendlesham Forest. The patrol encountered a glowing object with metallic features and attached brightly colored lights. One member of the patrol, Sergeant Jim Peniston, later claimed to have encountered an unknown origin craft, confirming the sighting of an unidentified flying object. Further evidence emerged the following day, with Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt discovering spiked radiation readings at the supposed landing site and a triangular depression in the ground. Halt's assertion that the incident was extraterrestrial led to reprimand and cover-up allegations by the UK and US governments. The Rendlesham Forest incident continues to be a mysterious event, leaving experts puzzled.